My God, the big men are back. Another month, another Grin Grappler. And I'm fired up, fellas. Some hardcore country ahead. Mickie James, our subject this evening. Much to get into. 17 years of work across our 6 matches. Um, the big one, the handwork match without any handwork. So much, so many layers to delve into. Lots to get into. Expert panel, as always. The great Bobby Two Shoes. How you doing, tonight, Bob?
I'm doing well, man. 5 hours on Friday wasn't enough. We're back for another show. We got 2 shows this week. Grin is back, man.
Did you not get the memo about that show on Friday, brother? That show's never to be referenced again. We did, the post show
Yeah.
just stayed on the air for some reason. We were talking. Manny at one point just goes, "Are we on?" I was like, "Yeah." But yeah, it was a hell of a time, and some good times ahead. But this is a big one. I like this as an addition to our catalog, so I'm sorry to get into it. The Oracle of Wrestling, of course, she was on that aforementioned infamous Friday program, but you back on the Grappler, right? You missed the last one, so you're back. And how you feeling,
I'm
man?
back. I've got a new laptop that I got for a great deal, and I'm here for the long haul again. I'll be fashionably late on Thursday, but that's not unusual for me. But I'm here on time. This is the first time I think I showed up right at like 8 o'clock on the dot in I don't know, 6 months.
Still getting better, brother. Still sharpening your tools, But when you got that laptop, you use the discount code LNG, right? Because it's universal. Yeah,
Yes.
tremendous. I
As
love
you
to
said
hear
that, you froze. I think everybody else did, and so
it. Tremendous. All right, there you go. I love to hear it. The contrarian he's got. Speaking of improving, we have some new weaponry at our disposal here on the contrarians end. How you feeling tonight, Chief?
Yeah, man, trying to break in this new ring light I got for this and my other podcasting exploits. It looked too plain. I need some good light, so y'all let me know how it goes. Makes my beard fucking glow, so that makes me happy.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right. As I mentioned on the Never to Be Spoken of Again SummerSlam 2013 commentary track. Been recovering from COVID last week, and it got worse again after that. So like I'm back to I'm fine. Today's like the first day in a while I felt good. So yeah, don't take it lightly, folks. It ain't fun. But I'm excited to be here, man. It's just literally right before I hopped on, finished the last match on our list because Impact Plus is fairly difficult program to navigate, or a site to navigate, I should say. It took me a while to find what we were watching, but once I did, I was happy to put an end to it. And yeah, I'm glad we made the choice that we did, because I know, Oracle, you weren't on, but it was basically myself, Bob, and Joe that Walter was one of the choices, and it seemed like that was obvious, and we kind of talked ourselves out of it to save that for another day, and this is what we landed on. And after the matches we've watched and the discussion I think that's going to be had, I think we made a really good choice.
I agree. I think, there are some wrestlers we cover, and they are so, and I don't mean this to understate how big a deal Mickie is, because she is a big deal to this day, but there are some wrestlers who are so substantial in stature, it's almost hard to do a show like this and capture that correctly with 6 matches. Mickie, I think, is the opposite, where I think we all left this process, if we were talking for you guys, going, yeah, she's every bit as good as we hoped and thought she was in our kind of memory and such, right? Like, I thought these 6 matches were very flattering for who she's been as a wrestler for now, 20 years or whatever it's been. So it's a hell of a ride. We'll start, as we always do, by kind of mapping out our own personal fandoms, and then we'll kind of go from there and go through the matches. Bobby, I'll start with you. I'm intrigued. Mickie James, fan, not a fan? When? Go through the kind of details on that, mate.
Yeah, I've always been a fan. I was watching, weekly when she showed up. That was 2005, the end of 2005. She showed up and was the Trish Stalker thing, which I thought was really well done, from start to finish. We'll talk about it a little more as the match goes on. And yeah, she kind of signified like a bit of a turning point in the women's division. Trish and Lita went out, and like Mickie and Beth kind of came in at the same time. So it's kind of like a changing of the guard, so to speak. And she was different from kind of most of the other divas in that she could actually wrestle, and they'd give her time to actually do stuff, and really stood out. And this made her stand out even more going through these matches.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an interesting time to look back on, and obviously, as you said, we'll get into it more when we get to the first match. But in a lot of ways, our first match tonight is like a complete outlier for that era of WrestleMania women's title matches, right? Like it's a moment in time, and it kind of, I mean, I think it did set the stage for the rest of her career, which we'll get into. But Oracle, I'm intrigued. Your fandom of Mickie James, talk us through it, mate.
So I was 13 years old when Mickie James showed up on television. So there's
And you didn't go blind?
yeah. So there's your answers. Whether or not I like her or not. Yeah, I've always been a fan of hers in the ring. But I never really thought of her as like this. Not even as sort of like this. I've never thought of her as a super worker, and nor would I think that after this. But it was more like
Right.
she's she can kind of do whatever. She's solid. I came away thinking she's actually quite good.
Yeah.
And like part of it is we probably did pick 6 very good matches, but it does make me wonder. And Joe brought this up in our DMs about if she had worked bigger matches and had more
Yeah.
opportunities to work bigger matches, how good her catalog and how good her reputation would be today. Which she obviously still has a very renowned reputation, but this is definitely, I think, one of the more successful Grin Grapplers we're going to do, because I honestly came out thinking she's quite good. Capital very, or capital V very, capital G good, as Contrarian Alex likes to do. She's just she's really good in the ring, and
Yeah.
I was very pleasantly surprised to see and find that out.
Kind of like, and we'll get into this more obviously, but she's kind of like this throwback worker to like her approach to the in ring, kind of that timeless classical American wrestling style, like the way she sells and her mannerisms. Like, there's a lot to like, and we'll go through some of the details here as we go. But Alex, same question to you, mate. Your own personal fandom of Mickie James.
Yeah, you already called it out. I was going to give the trigger warning. Some of my takes after watching this is probably going to offend modern fans by some of my praise for Mickie in comparison to a lot of modern workers, specifically the PC generation, Performance Center, not politically correct, but I'm the old fucker here. I remember Alexis Lurie and TNA or Alexis Lurie, and Ring of Honor. I sent you all that picture. I remember the first thing I saw is she was managing AJ in ROH, and that screen cap I sent you all. If there doesn't, that's the most 2002 thing you'll ever see.
Yeah.
She's got like those pigtails on top of like those fucking UFOs, like those pants that Nick Mondo used to wear, and AJ's got his first gimmick shirt that said the X Styles and the X Files font. So I remember that, and then y'all have to help me connect some dots, as I've commented on here before. I got to college in 2005 and immediately stopped watching all WWE that wasn't just WrestleMania and SummerSlam pretty much every year. So I remember watching 22, and I guess I kind of remember some of the storyline around that time, mostly from going back and rewatching it. And she was kind of a constant. And when did her first run end? 09?
I think it was the end of 09, yeah.
2010, shortly after WrestleMania 26.
There you go. The Oracle of Wrestling.
So she pretty much went right to TNA from WWE.
Yeah.
A few months off. Okay. Yeah, and I remember showing up in TNA and doing some good work there. As Joe pointed out, I thought for sure she came in before Brother Terry was there, but no, the Monday Night Wars were already off and running.
They'd already come and gone, brother.
That's right. Yeah, it was only 3 months that it lasted. And then, in recent years, it's like I said, she's a constant of like always around, always reliable, always good. I was thinking really hard about like I had to have seen her live before from all the shows I went to, and I was just trying to remember like a match that wasn't a TV match, and it was the 33, the 6 women challenge, because she came out. She has that Native American background. She had that big headdress on, and I remember Brian Alvarez said, "Wahoo never looked so good," and And immediate compliments. She's from Richmond, Virginia. I've spent a considerable amount of time in Richmond. My parents used to live in that area, and it's a lovely town. And yeah, I shared an elevator with her in LA, and I was trying not to be a weird wrestling fan because we're at the WrestleCon hotel, and I just kind of did the nod when I got in there, and she was in there too. And it was just me and her, and the elevator ride just took a while, so she started talking to me, and I was just like, all right. So she's a lovely person from my one personal interaction with her, and yeah, I don't know. Oracle just said, we're not going to come away from this talking like we're talking about Bret Hart or something, but there's something she has that's pretty special, not necessarily unique, but like her ability and her role as it's been through the past 20 years of wrestling. So I'm excited to talk about it in these matches. It also covers an interesting roadmap of wrestling and women's wrestling in particular. If you look at like the formula of the matches from go until the one we end on with Bob's favorite, Jordan Grace.
It's interesting too because you're absolutely right. We see this evolution, but she feels like a complete constant throughout. Like you can see, like her performance slightly dip, but she's basically the same wrestler throughout this whole journey, which is wild considering the span of time.
A little bit, but in one of those last excuse me, you see it drop a little bit, but in one of those last matches, she starts moving too fast for one of those younger gals to keep up with. Yeah. So it's interesting.
It happens. I'm going to take this time when I talk about my fandom here to bury my brother, which is always a good way to start a podcast. I was watching NXT TakeOver Toronto with him, and he was like very, very dismissive of this Asuka Mickie James match. Like I think he'd allowed the way they branded the Women's Revolution to kind of like warp his brain. He's like, this is like she's not about to hang, and I actually have some criticisms of the match when we get to it because the match is like insane in that it's basically just like a Mickie James showcase. Just it's all of her moves on Asuka, beats her from pillar to post. And I vividly remember him immediately eating his words on that. And that's kind of like a vivid memory for me. And a couple months later, she came in and they did the Luchadora gimmick, remember, which got a less than electric reaction from the live crowd, I think is the polite way to put it. Which, to be clear, is something we get into. I just think Mickie is like kind of criminally underserved in WWE's own history books. They never ever shine a light on her, right? Ever. And I think it showed when she came back for that angle. Her run was very frustrating, but
she's Southern and was not trained by them. So there's your two reasons right there.
Exactly. And it was very noticeable when she came back, the way they treated her. Like it was, and we'll get into that for a range of reasons, but I was still a big fan watching that run. And I enjoy whenever she get a chance to do anything of substance, one of which we cover. I think she does a hell of a job with that. And just enjoying her. And then I remember kind of thinking I remember she came back in the pandemic and she worked a couple matches with Zelina at the Thunderdome, I think. And I remember thinking it looks like Mickey's finally hit the wall. And then
it looked like it.
It did. And then she gets out of WWE and it's like, in terms of traditional big matches, in a lot of ways, her last run in TNA has been like her most substantial because she was like the biggest star they had there for a minute. That last rodeo thing was the only thing they had that got anyone talking. So cool chance to see her work some kind of big time main events. She had a couple main events on pay-per-view for them in this last go-round. We cover one of them here tonight. So yeah, one of those deals where like a fan have only grown to appreciate her just through her longevity. And then when doing this, it's like, wow, she needs to be brought up more, I think. I really believe she's kind of underrated historically. I genuinely think that. I think we're going to try our best to paint that picture here tonight. So we'll get into it and we'll talk it through here for our 6 matches. Before we do, this is one of our more unique setups in terms of acts, right? Because there was not a really conventional way of doing this. Unfortunately, the first 2 big runs of Mickey's career are in places and promotions where there were not many opportunities to have the kind of match that fits on this lineup, basically is the best way to put it. So we kind of did it as like chunks of time. Acts 2 and 3 are very closely bunched together within themselves. Act 1 is kind of like the first, 5-6 years of her national TV run, basically. But honestly, she's kind of consistent in a way that transcends the acts anyway. So it is what it is. We start with, I think still the most famous match of her career, right? WrestleMania 22, Trish Stratus. She's an interesting wrestler in that she has like 2 or 3 obvious matches for something like this, and then around 10 matches that are kind of on the bubble, and we were picking through them and which one to do here, which one to do there. So this is one of the obvious ones. To Alex's earlier point, obviously some stuff in Ring of Honor and TNA. She signed in 2003, I think. She was in development over 2 years.
Yeah, I remember reading about her in WW on the interwebs. You know, she
So-
trained at the Funkin' Conservatory.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Real
Mhm.
graps, brother. Tracks for me. This is obviously a famous angle. The video package recapping it at one point has like a horror score, while Jim Ross yells, "This woman is a psycho," which Jim
When they
is
come
swimming
back-
for the fences. My God.
When they come back from the video package.
Requiem.
Yeah, they come back from the video package. It's just kind of quiet, and JR goes, "Wow."
Fair, but the thing about this match, whenever I watch it, I'm reminded of just how insane it is that Trish is the heel in Chicago, and it's there at the bell, but it escalates throughout the match to the point where Jim and Jerry on commentary are doing like full defense by the end of the match. So like, Chicago's weird, don't worry about it, folks. It's a fascinating dynamic. It really, really is. But
At one
it's
point,
amazing.
JR says, "Oh, they must have let all the crazies out of Chicago tonight."
They're in full like Bizarro world mode, right? For this
Yeah,
one.
he uses Bizarro World, and he does the, ladies and gentlemen, a defiant crowd here tonight.
Grows throughout the match. It's amazing. We'll get into that more. But Oracle, what did you think revisiting this? It's a very famous match. I'm intrigued what you made of it all these years later.
I liked this match at the time, and I remember thinking it was like actually a good women's match in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was kind of shocking because I was like, wait a minute, that's an actual good match that happened. And it was also a match that had, I mean, if you listen, the crowd's not really into it at first.
Right.
But like as the match progresses and goes along, they get more into it and cheer, and obviously cheer Mickie along. And it was also one of those things where it's like, okay, the crowd actually cares about a women's match too. Like occasionally Trish and Lita's matches would get some heat, like, over the years, but like this was like an actual match that like had like some weight to it, storyline and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The match the year before was Trish against Christy Hemme, and
Correct,
that
yeah.
died a horrendous death. Just for
Yes.
context, yeah.
Yeah, that was bad. It was over a Playboy issue too, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm sure one of them called the other one a whore or a slut or something.
But this holds up pretty well. They actually like have an actual match structure. Fit had to have called this one, brother, or
Oh
something.
yeah.
Of course, he was wrestling on TV by this point, but yeah, he surely had something to do with it. And Mickie, of course, works over the leg, and they do and they do some pretty good, decent. It's not, none of it's like lighting the world on fire. It's nothing
Right.
special, but there's a structure to it. There's decent psychology there. She's working over the leg. Trish misses the chick kick on the outside and hits the ring post.
Yep.
Mickie attacks the leg and hits the puts in her half crab. I did not remember the sit out powerbomb spot, and that popped me. I
That
was
was
on my
sweet.
couch. I was like, "What? Sit out
Yeah.
powerbomb?" Which was, I don't know. When you go back and watch some of that stuff, especially during Ruthless Aggression, some of these chicks would take like big crazy spots, and it
Yeah.
kind of surprises me rewatching some of that stuff. But that still caught me off guard in a good way. We can't ignore the very infamous stuff that's been edited out on Peacock.
That edit is one of the funniest
Mickey's,
things.
Oh yeah.
Mickey's counter of the
Yes, very creative counter.
Stratisfaction Bulldog.
I can confirm also they edited off of the original DVD release, so that was like it was.
Is it the same edit too? Because the edit is insane. It's
I
not
don't
just
remember if
cuts
it's
to
the same
crowd.
edit, but also the entire finish is edited on the Peacock version. But my joke, the moment's gone. For whom the bell tolls. When Triple H came out at WrestleMania, it was only for the live version, and then it was cut out. That was going to be my joke, that only this was on the live version. It lives forever on the internet, though.
Right, absolutely.
Sure, it does.
But of course, that was a the pop the crowd gets for that just adds to Mickey's popularity in the match. Some pretty good counters there, and near falls towards the end of the match, and Mickie picks up the win, which is a cool deal. But my favorite part of the whole thing, outside of the match, is right at the bell. Jerry Lawler goes, Mickie James is like Mark David Chapman.
Insane line.
Mark David Chapman killed John Lennon in the street.
He gunned him down in public.
He goes, no, I know it's kind of an extreme example. I was like, you think? Mark David Chapman. I was like, what the hell?
There's some, Alex mentioned in our chat, but there's some unhinged commentary on our ride here for different reasons. But
Of course, JR keeps going at the beginning of the match when Mickie comes out. He's like, I got one word for you, Mickie. Lithium. And
he
then
says it at the end too.
she wins and she's celebrating on the ramp. He goes, one word, lithium.
It's quite the deal. This is of all their matches, this is the only one we had where Mickie was the heel, right? Of all of our 6 matches. And
Yeah,
she's awesome as the bumping heel here. That shine that she takes for Trish, where she does like, she throws her into the splits and then she like just kicks her in the back. And Mickie takes that big bump to the floor. Like, she was working super hard here. And obviously, understandably so, this was a huge opportunity and she made the most of it. Lots to like here. Bobby, what did you make of WrestleMania 22?
Yeah, I thought it ruled. Kind of like I said earlier, like they had this really good physical match that you weren't really seeing from the women's division at that point. Probably the best WrestleMania women's match up to that point in time. Victoria and Molly had a really good match a couple of years before.
When would you say it lost that mark? Because they have that for years ahead of it.
Yeah,
right? Like another 10 years. It's getting 10 years, I think, right?
Yeah, probably. I don't remember what the women's match was at 31, but 32 is probably better. But
31 was a tag with
Bellas,
good.
Right?
Yeah,
it's a good match.
So yeah.
I think this is better than the 32 triple threat, but
yeah, it's fair.
Yeah,
too,
I'm thinking you could argue. I like 32 triple threat, but I think you could argue this is better.
What's 33?
Nothing on 33. Nothing on 33 is better. The 4-way's not bad, but
yeah, they're not better.
I mean, Oscar Charlotte's great, but I mean the finish is so disappointing that it's like from 34.
Honestly,
Not to remind Joe and Alex of that show, but
might have had it until Bianca and Sasha. Honestly,
should we just decide that retroactively?
Yeah,
just declare it. Yeah.
Why not?
I love it.
And I think the thing that really helped too is the placement on the card really stood out because they had Edge and Foley, and then instead of going right into this match, they did Boogeyman and Booker before that, and then they went into Mickie and Trish, which really helped because the other women's match was, I think, between the 2 world title matches, so that didn't really have a chance. And I mean, give the people a chance to get up and go do whatever during Boogeyman and Booker, and then they're back for this one. They're ready.
I love it.
Yeah.
I did notice that match went on before this, and I was like, that's a good point, Bob. I'm glad you noted that because I was like, that's different. That shows you there's some faith in the angle. I know that Alex Greenfield, was it? The guy who used to write for the WWF? I'm pretty sure he was like the driving force behind this, and he famously told a story about Vince's reaction to the aforementioned creative counter of Mickey's. He was not thrilled. I remember the story being, which is, you get what you get. I suppose it was worth it.
I gotta mention the segue that Cole and Taz did from the Booker Boogeyman to the Trish Mickie video package. Like afterwards, they were like, "Look at all these making all these dumb worm jokes," and then Cole goes over to JR and King goes, "Hey, you guys know?" He goes, "These guys know all about worms. They're from the South."
Those dumb fucking Southerners.
High fives, Pritchard.
That was great, boss.
And then of course, JR's comment was like, "Well, usually we have them in our tackle box, or
To your point earlier, Oracle, about counters, what about that one she does on Trish's head scissors, where she just sort of hurls her and falls to the floor? It looks like a good way to break your ankle. That was crazy.
Yes, that ruled.
The crowd loved that spot. They popped big for that. They liked a lot of the finishing stretch here. They were really into it. Alex, what'd you make of this one on Revisit?
Yeah, man, this is good shit. It was a really good angle, of course, because of the time period and the way they viewed women. It veers a bit too far into the sexual aspect of it. That's a really good idea. Like a wrestler comes up and is obsessed with this other wrestler who is their hero, and the difference, like with a lot of shit, is that, or a lot of people wouldn't work, is Mickie's so good. And like from day one, like the first time I ever saw her, even like if you go back and watch like when she was AJ's manager in ROH, or like when she was with Punk and TNA, she was a natural. And she wasn't Dustin Rhodes, but she was a natural. And I don't mean that in the sense that they mean it today of like, oh, they can do fucking
Right.
30 minutes of front rolls without blowing up, or oh, they can hit the ropes. Like, she just got it, man. And you see it here, like her facial expressions and the way
Wrestling charisma, I guess you could say.
Yes.
yeah. The thing that they can't and have not teach to anybody in years. And she definitely leans into the crowd here. She uses some of her womanly attributes to kind of get the crowd on her side, and it's a really fun performance to watch. And I'm not saying that in a way to shame her. It's really like a fun performance to watch. Like I said, what else I got here? It's a weird WrestleMania, man. If you look at the card for this Mania on paper, it's a strange one. I did, because it has one of my favorite unprotected chair shots ever. I did fast forward and watch Sean belt Vince in the head with the chair, and Bob he blasts Vince, and JR goes, "It's long, it's out of here," and King goes, "Cubs win, Cubs win." The opening is fantastic. Trish just comes out of the gate beating the shit out of Mickie. It's like we've been saying, you guys all mentioned it. It's wholly unlike anything we were used to at this time. I remember my favorite women's match up until that point would have been the triple threat with Jazz, Victoria, and Trish at 19, and that was just kind of like 7-minute spot match. But it was very rare we had like a women's match where there was a story, and like one of the women was legitimately angry at the other one and tried to beat the shit out of them, and not, just rip their clothes off or something. So the opening stretch is a lot of fun. Somewhere a young Roderick Strong or a young Walter, or both, were watching this and taking notes at the spot where Trish goes to kick Mickie and she ducks and she kicks the post, because both those guys love that for whatever reason, that chop spot. Defiant crowd, we talk about that. We're not doing Trish Stratus Grin Grappler, but this is one of those matches you watch and it's unbelievable how good she got with like the limited resources that were available to her at the time. Like, it was just some moment where she's like selling in the corner. I was like, dude, she's like, they brought her in just to be a Barbie doll, just to stand there and have like her cleavage just heaving and just kind of stand there. And she obviously took a liking to it and learned how to be really good at it. And this is a good example of that. Mickie gets a little excited at one point. She gets up. Trish gives her a suplex or something, and she gets up before Trish is up, and Trish just like, what the fuck are you doing? And then Oracle already called it out, but Trish takes a moment to go back to the 1994 Super J Cup and reverse a Hurricane Rana into a sit-out powerbomb. It's a fantastic moment of wrestling there. That spot. Mickie does it here, and she brings it back in the Asuka match, that thing where she kicks the leg out and then puts her knee up so it hits Trish in the face on the way down. That's great. And then, wonky finish. The whole finish is edited, because the original finish was Mickie goes to give Trish the Bulldog, what's that called? The Stratisfaction.
Yeah.
And they just completely fall. And like the crowd, like you can hear it on one of the replays, the crowd, Chicago, you fucked up. So like you would do, Mickie just picks her up and kicks her in the head, and it's like, all right, fuck this. And so,
that makes more sense. Yeah, I was confused by that a little bit. Yeah.
And then I could be conflating stories here, but I remember Mickie being on Colt's podcast years ago, and I think what happened was what she said was like the grabbing the crotch was planned, but then she ad-libbed the licking her hand part, and that's right. Yeah. And she had some story about she got back there and Vince was mad and her mom was also back there. So it was like one of the weirdest moments of her life. Like she's getting scorned for being, overtly sexual while her mom's there. It's it holds up. I love the fucking Hey Mickie knockoff that she came out to throughout her whole WWE career. And it's fun. And it's like, if you're just kind of used to the current temperature and, post Stephanie McMahon inventing women's wrestling style, this doesn't really stand out as much. But if you kind of know the context and can put yourself against what else was contemporary, it definitely stands out. There's a reason people talk about it all these years later, and it's not just that insane spot.
Absolutely. It's a genuine piece of history, and it meant a lot for the division, and it meant a lot for Mickie's career. That goes without saying. And I definitely think it falls in that category of like good match, great moment. And I don't mean that as an insult. It's just that sometimes those are the things that live with us, right? In wrestling, remember we did a couple months ago when we did Lex and we got to the Hogan match, and it's like, yeah, the match is fine, but the moment is like Lex is the height of his career, and I think this is similar to that, honestly.
You ever actually watch Taker and Brock from 30? I hope not, because all you need to remember is the end.
Yeah,
it's a slog.
Trust me, I remember watching it. It was fucking awful.
Yeah.
I think the biggest kind of takeaway here is, to Alex's earlier point, it's when the people start cheering Mickie, the way that she just absolutely bosses that scene. Like, she just relishes that moment. It's like, look, there are a lot of men and women who can do the mechanics of pro wrestling and so on and so forth, but there's a certain level of charisma, personality, and frankly, just passion for being in front of the people to make that moment yours the way she does there. Like, there's a moment when I think it's when the single leg Boston, like, Trish gets the ropes and she just stops and like brings the people in. And it's like how old was Mickie then? Like, she's only been on TV for like 6 months. But that's, to your point, she just got pro wrestling on to its absolute moment. She's got pro wrestling. So it's a really cool deal. And I think Mickie's career story without this moment is kind of unfathomable, because it sets the stage for everything that follows. I mean, in the last match we did, what does Tom Phillips put over? He's like, she had the famous feud with Trish Stratus. It's an important part of her career. So I liked it a lot. I was glad to revisit. Really good stuff.
They got their moment in the first Women's Rumble. They faced off when everyone else was down because of this. Yeah.
You're right. I forgot about that. Absolutely, yeah. And they worked. They did the tag at Evolution, right?
Trish and Lita versus Mickie and
Foxy. Yeah.
Who?
That was the match where, bless her heart, but Alicia kept.
Fox.
That was the match where Mickie on like 3 different occasions like, Alicia, I'm getting pinned.
Yeah.
For Foxy. Bless her.
Did Alexa Bliss wrestle on that show?
She was
No,
the
she got
manager
concussed.
for
Yeah.
Mickie and
that was when Alexa was out of a concussion for 2 months, and they brought her back and put her on a house show loop against Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey in a tag. Multiple people were involved in that decision. Never forget, this is the industry we love. But yeah, she was at ringside.
they brought her
like
back and booked her against Dr. Death in a cage match.
Right. Did she do a promo to start the show as I recall? Was she just at ringside?
I think she was just at ringside. Well, I mean, years later they booked her in a ladder match against Shotzi. So I mean,
yeah, true.
and for what it's worth, I like Shotzi too, Alex. But
Shotzi's a hoot. It was just it's not so much booking them both in the match; it's having them do an electric chair spot.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Anyway, it's a different show for another day. Right. So, in the years between the first match and second match, again, our first act is very loose here. So, she's very quickly turned babyface, right? Like, it feels like she was babyface before long. So she's go ahead. Go on, mate.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
No, you know better than me, bro. Go.
So, Backlash 2006, I have that DVD where Shawn Michaels teams with God, our Lord and Savior, and faces Shane and Vince.
Physical media.
But so Trish and Mickie have a rematch at Backlash, and this is the one where like Trish is dressed as Mickie and Mickey's dressed as Trish, and they're having that match, whatever, when they did that whole thing after Mania.
Yes.
And Trish gets her last injury before she comes back for a brief, 3-month run before she retires. She dislocates the hell out of her shoulder in a really nasty injury. And like you've probably seen a clip of it before where like Trish gets like pushed over the top rope, takes a crazy bump, and her like when she tries to hang on to let go to take the bump, her shoulder dislocates on her way down.
Yikes.
So Mickie was like, I think heel for a little while longer, and then they just like sometime during the summer or like in the fall, maybe around the time Trish came back, they just turned Mickie face. And she kind of took Trish's spot as the number one babyface after Trish retired, and she had a program with Lita, and of course ended up retiring Lita at Survivor Series. And
that match is pretty good, right?
I don't know. I've never rewatched it. That show's so bad, and the only thing I remember about watching that show is Crime Time, like selling all of Lita's like lingerie after the match, post match, and like humiliating her. And I was like, I don't know.
I remember in the build to that, or like because it was such an outlying moment. Anytime it comes up, I always repost it. It's I think it's when Lita wins her number 1 contender spot. Mickie's on commentary, and Lita like wins and goes out to the out of the ring and immediately gets in Mickie's face, and Mickie like throws off the headset, and they start like talking mad shit to each other face to face, like you would see at like a boxing press conference or something. And it was just like, I'm going to kick your ass, I'm going to beat your ass type stuff. And it was so, the reason I remember it is because at that time, all the women in WWE just hated each other because they were women and called each other bitch and stuff like that. So I remember it felt like a real thing. And it was, it's 30 seconds of television from 20 years ago, but it just stuck with me because it's so different from everything else
Absolutely.
from that era.
Yeah, absolutely. So she worked with Melina a lot in like, what, 07?
07, yeah.
Because Melina was like the top heel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, the only thing that I think is that I know for sure, I think is unfortunately lived in history is the very unfortunate Michelle McCool feud, right, with the whole Piggy James.
Oh yeah, Lake
and all
Cole
that.
feud, Piggy James horseshit.
Yeah, which. I mean, to be fair, unlike the other few we'll get to later, at least she won in the end, I think, with that one at some point.
Yeah,
Maybe
she did. She won the feud, but
you know, that makes any better. But one of the feuds we'll cover later, she just loses, and it's like, it's just mind-boggling to me, like genuinely, and we'll get to it. But yeah, is there anything else, Oracle, you'd like say from that first run is worth noting?
She really just kind of took the spot of Trish as like, she was the last kind of like, I don't know, Trish and Lita were like, you know, kind of the cornerstones of Victoria and them from like the early part of Ruthless Aggression, and then Mickie kind of took over with Beth and Melina, and I guess really those were kind of the top three after that, and they were kind of the top three. Where they kind of gave them time sometimes, but not really. You know, they might get a 7 or 8 minute pay-per-view match. This was all kind of like the last vestiges before they turned PG, and then like everything became like 2-minute diva matches, you know?
Right.
Because
that's the thing.
If you look back at Ruthless like Aggression, they have a lot of 5-6 minute TV matches, and like the pay-per-view matches, they get like 7, 8, 9 minutes. But when they transition in 09 or so, it's like it's just killed dead even more. Like
because she won the Divas title, right? Because her and Michelle.
Oh yeah, she won the title several times. I think it was like 6 times. I think Todd Phillips or whoever was saying it.
But like the actual Divas belt, because I know she won the. Well, but
she won the Divas belt a couple times, I think. Yeah,
I think so but I don't know about you guys, but I never associate her with that belt because of what you just kind of laid out, Oracle. I always think of her as the era before, because that was when they had both belts for a while. I think, right? They had like
Yeah, she was the number one woman on the roster in terms of I don't know. Beth kind of took her over by the end of 07, but she was at least the number one babyface from probably the end of 06 until the middle of 08.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who would have been the internet woman darling at that time? Was that like Cheerleader Melissa? Sarah Del Rey?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably one of those two. Yeah.
So, you know, we've gone through this here, and I'm aware that cuts were different then, and the releases were different then, and they were a lot more like just guys would just move on. But it's always struck me as wild in history, like how Mickie's release it appears to have happened like really suddenly. Was that the read at the time? Because she was like champ a couple months before she was like, oh, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so she won the Lake Cole feud, and then she just like dipped out like shortly after Mania. You know, I'm sure the Piggy James storyline didn't help matters.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one. But nonetheless, WWE's loss was TNA's gain. Unfortunately, she was headed to honestly maybe the worst version of TNA. It would get a little better during her run, but she enters like the worst possible point. She enters on the TV before but not just like she enters on the TV before 10-10-10. And on Bound for Glory, she's the special guest referee. So her first like real appearance is on the night that they shoot that angle to this horrible reaction, you know?
That's Jeff Hardy turning heel, trying to redo the NWO, right? Okay.
That's because after months of they are coming 10-10-10.
Because Hogan does the hoof stash when Jeff turns heel.
So, unfortunately, you know, she's entering a pretty tumultuous time, but fellas, TNA Turning Point 2010, Mickie James versus Tara. This is a certified hidden gem.
Yes.
And the only reason this match is not recognized and celebrated is because hardcore wrestling fans are like deeply offended by no finish deals. They hate any type of no finish, and it shows here because this match should be remembered very fondly. It's not because of the finish, I think. But nonetheless, let's get into it. There's a pre-match promo beforehand from Mickie, very short one. This is when Tara is doing her like biker gimmick, right?
Bro.
And does anyone know the story? Indeed. Does anyone know the story behind the biker gimmick, or would you guys like me to explain it to you?
All right, hold on.
Okay, go on.
There was someone that was saving Angelina Love, right? A mysterious helmeted biker, and it turned out to be Tara.
Close. It was All Elite Wrestling star Madison Rayne. Very close.
That's
Okay.
right.
Yeah. So it's even deeper than that, as most Vince Russo stories are. Tara lost a title versus career match to Madison Rayne and had to leave TNA. And so there she returned under the biker gimmick to help Madison Rayne. Which begs the question, if she was helping the person who ended her career, did she have to hide at all? Because it feels like she'd be the main issue when it comes. Normally, wrestlers would hide to attack the wrestler who... I don't know. So anyway, it's quite the ordeal. Not exactly a red-hot angle leading her into this to this thing. But this is... Mickie debuted on TV. She had like a couple matches, and this is her first pay-per-view match back in TNA.
Real quick, Joe, just for...
Yes.
to put ourselves back in some TNH... You care if I run down the card of the show real quick?
Please do, yes.
We opened off with Robbie E. and Cookie. I believe that was Becky Bayless. Defeated Jay Lethal for the X Division title. We're about to talk about the second match in just a moment. The Machine Guns against Team 3D went 20 minutes. Machine Guns won.
That's the one this show's most famous because that was their retirement match. Remember?
Yeah.
That was that deal.
This is what led to Bully Ray and
Yep.
Aces and Eights. Rob Van Dam defeated Tommy Dreamer 16 minutes 53 seconds.
That's actively offensive. No. Yeah, that's disgusting.
And a 10-man tag, AJ Styles, Doug Williams, James Storm, Kazarian, and Bob Roode defeated Raven, Rhino, Sabu, Stevie Richards, and Brian Kendrick.
It's one thing to bunch up all your good wrestlers, but to put them against those guys is so much worse, you know, like...
Abyss defeated Pope D'Angelo De Niro. I don't remember who I saw tweet this the other day. Someone was saying that LA Knight stole his whole act from Pope D'Angelo De Niro, and I was just like, well, LA Knight's good, so what's the harm done here?
Yeah, and he stole his act from people way before Pope D'Angelo De Niro. Come on, that's ridiculous.
And Pope, like, God bless him, but he was literally just doing Dusty Rhodes. Like, Hulk thought he was Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
Jeff Jarrett defeats Samoa Joe by submission in 10 minutes and 32 seconds.
That was heel Jeff, wasn't it?
That was when they set up like MMA Jeff, I think. That finish was.
That rules.
Yeah.
And then your main event, a sellout anywhere around the world. Jeff Hardy defeated that can't miss prospect Matt Morgan in 1306.
He's gonna figure it out one day, brother. He's gonna figure it out one day.
I don't need to see those other matches to know we covered the best match on the show. Indeed.
This is also our first experience on this ride of Hardcore Country, one of the all-time great wrestling themes. One day I'll hear this theme without popping and like immediately find it funny. It's yet to not happen today. I love it. Mickie charges the ring, they start brawling, and this thing kicks ass from start to finish. They have like 8 minutes. God, this rocks. Alex, tell the people about this.
Well, first off, we got to start off with Jeremy Borash just drunk or high or some shit, or just not paying attention at all. He begins to announce that it's a title match, but it's not, and then just cuts it off. And then he goes, accompanied by Madison Rayne, not there. And then he said, he is Tara. And Taz, it's just quiet, and Taz immediately says, JB been hitting that rum candy, and like Tenay pops in a way that's clearly not him, like in character. Like he just kind of squeal laughs and has to stifle it. And also Taz immediately, like they start fighting, and he's like, not a fun or jovial mood here. And Tenay goes, or jovial.
He's like, that's what I said.
Fucking Taz. And I guess, yeah, because I want to be complimentary of the match and not lose sight of that. Taz and Tenay, we'll get this out of the way, are just ungodly horny this entire match.
Yes.
like some of their back and forth is funny because like Mike Tenay is the perfect straight man. Like he's always been really good at like, oh, you mean this? And because like Taz says something about I can't read Tara's shirt, it's all stretched out, and Tenay says, well, I don't know why or something. It's stupid, but it's funny enough. But it shouldn't take away from the match because this match is like it looks like they don't want to work together and are just like beating each other up and not like they don't really do any spots. And there's like a lot of hair pulling, but not in that like Russo style of like
Right.
Jerry Springer style. Like it looks like they're really trying to hurt each other and get like the upper hand on like, like you would see in a street fight when a woman pulls their hair and try to get in there with like a punch or some shit like that. And like at one point, Mickie just looks like hell. I mean, comparatively speaking, like her hair is all fucked up and her
It's
makeup's
awesome.
like smeared. It's
Hey,
fucking.
she looks badass.
Yeah, she's like calling her on.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, my note here says messy in a good way. Like it's sloppy, but in a purposeful way of like these two women really don't like each other and just trying to beat the shit out of one another. And then it leads to a brawl. And was that Garrett Bischoff, the referee?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I thought he looked familiar. And then they do a pull apart. And Mickie hits the ring, and she goes, "Get your fucking ass in here," and calls her back. And and like they're brawling. They still got like a hold of each other while they're fighting off the security guards to get like away from them. And the video on YouTube, including entrances and the post-match brawl, is 13 minutes long. But like in a way different than anything else we watched, because I had never seen this. I had no idea what it was. Like this was the hoot of the episode for me, because I was just kind of like pumping my fist. And like that spot when they get on top and Tara tries to go for something and Mickie just sweeps her leg out, so she's like on top of her so she can just like hit her, and she's laying these forearms into her. It's it's a prime example. We had a brief back and forth in our chat about this. You said it's the lowest rated match on Cage Match that we did, and it's like an example of like you can keep your clean chain wrestling sometimes and just give me something like this and I'll be more than satisfied with it.
And to that point, I recently watched TNA 2010 from January 4th to 10/10/10. Watched every episode. I honestly am not sure anything got over as much as this did. And that's where like the imaginary online fans playbook of like no finish bad. It's like the people loved this deal. And I'm actually going to watch the rematch at some point because they actually interest me. But they don't just do the Rusev thing and blowing it off the next week. The next month they do a Falls Count Anywhere. And then they blow it off with a steel cage match. So I'm going to actually circle back to those because even 13 years later, I was like, that sounds like wrestling to me. This got out of control and it felt out of control, which is the way it's supposed to be. There's some just outright intensity here. It feels hateful, as you said. It's a hell of a. I haven't seen a ton of Tara's work. I don't, in my mind anyway, think of her as like a classical worker by any means, but there's a toughness to her game for sure, and it fit in this match. Like she brought
Rich hardcore matches are all really good.
That makes sense. Yeah,
she's another one kind of like Trish too. Of like, she was a fitness model. I think they brought her in as one of the hoes to give you an idea of the time period, and she just took a liking to it and got really good at it. And just kind of put the pin on it, or like my cap on it. Hidden Gem is right, because it's no one like you are a psychopath, Joe. Like it's like TNH should be enough for people to listen to and be like, man, none of this is worth going back and revisiting. That Hogan era. I mean, some of the Aces and Eights stuff you got a little bit. Also to convince people that Bully Ray was a good character at one point in time, but like we went down the card of this. Like if anyone read this, they would have no hinkling to watch this show at all.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you watch it, it's got some insane misogynistic commentary on top of it that, like I said, depending on your prerogative, can be kind of humorous. But it's one of those things of like everything surrounding this match is kind of hidden it in time, and to the point where I had never seen it or knew about it until today. And I'm telling you, it's on YouTube, on the TNA channel or Impact Wrestling, whatever they call it now. You should watch it. It's a fucking hootski.
Absolutely. I love it. Bobby, what did you think?
Yeah, I had a blast with it too, man. And Alex made a really good point. It feels like a fight. It's not, super polished. And I think that's something that just really works, especially in this context. Like, I, again, never would have went on my way to watch this. I saw the cage match rating. I'm like, well, we don't know how that's going to be. And then it ended up being great. I was mad at cage match yesterday. And I thought I was past that, but I was mad, man. And
sometimes with these old ones, Dave's closer to the money. And Dave gave it like 3.25, which is that's a good grade. And cage match is like a 5 point something or another. What was you gonna say, Bob? Sorry, I cut you off.
No, but I had a great time with it. Again, not really super familiar with her TNA work, but this and the other two matches we watched kind of really good encapsulation. The other two are different than this one, but this was awesome, man.
In terms of Mickie individually too, she takes some incredible bumps here. The neck breaker on the top rope for the cutoff. Yes. She does that whiplash bump. At one point, Tara does like a Beal, and she flies through the air. My goodness, she was. You could tell she was super motivated to make this work in TNA, and unfortunately, she would. You only do so much, unfortunately, as we've learned many times over, and still learn to this day. But she tries her absolute best here. It's a hell of a time. Oracle, this struck me when I was watching this thing. This is right up the Oracle of Wrestling Street. This is.
Oh man, they're just tearing into each other, man. Like I like every time they would do the hair pulling thing, where they would it would be like a collar and elbow hair pull, basically. They're like going all over the ringside, doing that shit ruled, man. And like,
Oracle, did you pop for the? She had the single crab and then reached back and pulled her hair while she had the single leg crab.
Yes, that ruled. And then like, honestly, my favorite parts were like when they would like break out of the fight for a minute, and they would like. Like the camera would pan to their facial expressions. They just looked like so like haggard and pissed off and like wanted to kill each other. It ruled. I imagine. I don't know. Is there like stip matches any good, or is it just not? Is it not any good?
I will report back. There's the cage match has got some good reviews, but it's because it's on Impact TV. It's kind of like lost,
Right.
But I will watch it and I'll tell you. But
yeah,
based on this dynamic, they have a good shot. I think
it
could
own the book. I was like, I wonder if they're if the whole feud is good. Yeah.
Where are we here in relation to the Awesome Kong Gail Kim feud? That was a couple years before this, right?
Yes, yeah, and that was I was talking to our friend, the famous Confirmed Shield, saying it's a shame she didn't get a chance to work with Kong in that kind of version of TNA. I think the Knockouts were in a better place then. I think, honestly, just on the back. I mean, even the initial Beautiful People run is like they're really over, right? They're a good act. By this point, it's like Russo he's Russoing,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's another one. Like Beautiful People, Velvet Sky in particular. When the Beautiful People started, that was a good act, man.
Yes,
it was.
Absolutely.
So much so that the WWE completely stole it and called it Lay Cool.
Yep. Indeed. Yep. The month before this match, this is just TNH stuff now, but I'm never gonna have a chance to do this again. But the month before this match, they do a deal where they do Madison and Tara versus Velvet and Angelina, who are now the baby faces, and the stip is the winner gets the rights to the Beautiful People name and theme. And in the most incredible players, so like Madison's a blonde at this point, right? And she comes out with her hair dyed. She's a brunette, and it's like she must have just she must have just told me she's losing this deal. I mean, come on, what happened to the game I love? I mean, it's like a spoiler.
That's when Pritchard was with them, right?
A little bit before.
Oh, because that sounds like a Bruce. Yeah. Anytime there's like a tangible thing on the line, that's usually a Bruce Pritchard 101. Like if there's a jacket or a hat up for grabs, that's like Bruce's go-to, man.
It's interesting. I think he might have came in like the month after, very soon. I know he got a lot.
He saw that stipulation. He's like, "That's where I want to be, man. That's the company I want to work for."
He said they're starting to figure it out, bro. Let's go. Yeah, it says a lot about the Russo Hogan time that like Pritchard's increased power made the show better, which tells you a lot about how bad it was. Like genuinely, that's because I always say it. They win worst TV show in 2010 and 2011, and they win best TV show in 2012, which is like a thing that does not get talked about how insane that is. They actually did that. It was kind of good that year, and then it goes back to being aces and eights. Another story for another day. Indeed. Match rules, post-match rules, absolute who, great piece of business. Okay.
Oracle, we got Oracle here, so we got to quiz him. Give us a great non-ending and a horrible non-ending for a match, since that's obviously one of the sticking points with this one. Like a DQ or something. What's like one of the all-time best and all-time worst non-finishes to a match?
Oh, we lost the Oracle of Wrestling sound.
I
You
forgot I'm
Yeah,
muted.
muted.
I feel like got me all nervous because I feel like I'm taking my ACT again or something. But I would have to think about that a little bit. Honestly,
What's the most famous tweet? One that I always see clipped is the one when Randy hits the ref.
Oh, with Cena.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know if people liked it or not, but it's very famous, right? People always clip it.
Is that the one with Cena? Or is
Yeah,
No Way Out.
About the one with Christian where he beats the shit out of the ref or no, that's Christian hits Randy.
kicks Christian in the dick.
And then Christian wins the title by DQ. That's what it was.
Yes, I was talking about the Cena one. Yeah,
Cena he did it to retain the title because he lost by DQ.
That's
I just wanted a chance to talk shit about that Brock Taker finish at SummerSlam 15. I hate that so much.
Oh my god! Oh, that's an awful one. That might be the answer right there.
Yeah, because it just made me think of that with this because it's a program that had an awesome pull apart and a non-finish that sucked. So it was like the two there. But yeah,
is that when they did like the triangle choke deal?
it's when he had Taker in the Kimura. And Taker tapped, but the ref didn't see it, but the timekeeper did, so he rang the bell. And then the ref was arguing, and Taker had to show off his jiu-jitsu.
So Taker, that was when they
remember the finish, and then of course the famous spot where Taker and Brock both stand up, and Brock does that, and then Taker does the.
Oh yeah. Taker was kind of the heel in that deal. That was kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
Random Undertaker heel turn in 2015.
He was just obsessed with kicking Brock in the dick. He did that. That was like the entire build. Every time he got him, he'd kick him in the nuts. But yeah, it's just funny because like non-finishes are like the first like 8 WrestleManias have at least 1 or 2 non-finishes. It's like it was so par for the course, and now people just detest them so much.
Oh, the 80s were like chock full of them.
You have to do them sometimes,
Yeah.
And people always will say, and I get the point, but people say, if you haven't got a finish, don't book the match. But you don't always have that luxury. Not every promotion has 100 wrestlers. They can just fucking roll for, sometimes you have to do the match to have a good show. Otherwise, you end up with the Iron Savages out there,
The one at AWA Super Sunday, whatever it was, where Hogan beat Bach, and then they took it.
That's the worst one ever. That's the worst one ever. You just go ahead. That's it. That's the worst. No, that has to be it. That killed the territory.
Yeah,
literally. Yeah.
They were packing like 10,000, 12,000 people in for those shows, man. That's crazy.
If you ever watched that too, like the original broadcast version of it, that crowd is like feverishly hot for Hulk Hogan.
It's a great match too.
Yeah,
it is. I imagine in today's climate of Tony Khan, if one of his big matches, like on a pay-per-view, had a non-finish, he'd be chased down the street with pitchforks and torches.
They do that unification match. We may see some Bash at the Beach business, but I digress. What other matches do you guys think? Mickie James, Act 1. So I'm going to note the Tara rematches just because I think they probably are good.
I think I know the answer, but I'm just going to ask anyway. Are those Madison Rain matches any good?
No.
I didn't think so.
Like Madison Rain is like, because I have a lot of fun with Matt telling her that she was really good back in the day. She's kind of like, she was like the prototype Alexa.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to use the word prototype to be polite and leave it at that. Any other matches to note, fellas? She has similar strengths, but they're just a little bit.
She was in TNA for so long. I didn't watch a lot of it.
Seems like a very nice person. Sky Blue's got a lot better since Madison Rain came in too, but nonetheless.
Oh no! I was talking about Mickie.
I know. Still on occasion shoot a message with Madison Rain, like, listen, man, give us some time, get comfortable. Not every player's best on their new team, but he's not going to watch this, so I'll be honest. No, Mickie James, I'm with you, Oracle. We didn't see a lot of it. There was a Melina match that had positive reviews.
Yeah.
Bob, any memories of any Mickie James matches we should call out, individual matches?
Not really. I mean, we talked about the Lita match.
Fan.
There's a couple of Melina matches, like you said, that are good. They have like a Falls Count Anywhere match on Raw. That's not bad. It's like March 2007. Other than that, though, not really.
Okay.
And that's a shame. She wasn't really given the opportunities.
Oh, yeah. It's not, I think when we finish this, everyone will realize that we appreciate her as a worker. It just is what it is, right? In this time, Alex, anything to chat in particular?
Again, that whole era is kind of a
Yeah.
WWF is blank for me. But was she in the WrestleMania 25 Battle Royal, that Santino one?
I think she
Probably.
was.
That's that happened today. I'm sure the reaction would be pretty normal.
Fair. Okay. We move ahead here. We go ahead, 6 years? NXT TakeOver Toronto. A different time, folks. A different time. Sean Spears and Bob Roode kicked this one off, and let me tell you, the people were rocking. And I don't really know why, but they were rocking. It was a different time. In 2015, of course, Mickie was famously murdered by James Storm on national television.
Right.
Yes.
She managed to survive this, and she came into NXT for a one-off. And the rumor at the time was it was supposed to be Trish, but Trish, I think, has since said that she was never asked for this. So when I was looking at this earlier, what I kind of
Trish
pieced
and
together
Asuka.
was, what I kind of pieced together was summer of 2016, NXT's division changed, right? Because Bayley had her last match, but in the draft, they took Carmella, Nia, and Alexa, who were kind of like, if you watched NXT, it felt like those were the next three, and they just all went up instead, and it was kind of weird. Like the division just kind of missed a big gap. So I think this was a way to kind of, stopgap as they waited to get Ember ready, because that was her next big program. I think even in the January show, she did like a 4-way, right? Which was probably another one. It was like Ruby and
Who?
I forget.
Asuka?
Asuka did, yeah.
Yeah, it was. Hold on, I'll get it. It was Asuka, the Iconics, and Nikki Cross.
There we go. Okay, there we go. So it was kind of an interesting time, and it was a chance for Mickie to work a one-off here. They did like one promo, and kind of built it with like a sports style talking heads thing, right? They kind of had like the women talking about all their accomplishments separately and so on and so forth. Mickie gets the big welcome back chance. She gets a hell of a response. Obviously, this set up her actual return to the promotion, as I referenced earlier, but it's a really like kind of unique match in the NXT lore. As someone who loves that part of that history of the brand, this really stands out as a strange deal. But it's a good one. There I am there. Lots to like here. Alex, you were very keen on. I mean, we're always going to put this on the list anyway, but you were very much like we got to the Asuka match. What did you make of this revisit? Interesting time to look back on.
Yeah, man, it's good shit. This show, of course, before this match was the gotta be top 5, top 3 NXT matches ever. DIY and Revival in that 2 out of 3 falls match. Yeah, man, I like the idea of the champions killed everybody, so they have to bring in just like a ringer, not a ringer per se, but an old vet. That's how they tried to get the fucking world championship off of Jack Johnson back at the turn of the 1900s. Was brought Jim Jeffries, said, "Hey, we need you, man." And so I guess Paul called Mickie James and said, "We need you, pal." They can't do that on the main roster because everyone there is supposed to be important anyway. So it's one of those unique opportunities that's afforded, and I feel, possibly speaking out of ignorance because I don't watch it that much, but I feel they rely on that pretty heavily in NXT currently. The idea of like bringing in someone I'm going to test you to see if you have what it takes against this guy.
Sure. Yeah.
They do it all the time.
Short little match, 15 minutes. Mickie looks great, and I don't mean that necessarily in a male gaze way. I mean that like she's in good shape and like she moves really well, and you got a fantastic lockup to start this. One of those that they take to the mat and try to jockey for position. They roll out of it, and Asuka was just, we did a Grin Grappler on Asuka, and we talk about this particular time period, like her aura, and then also just how fucking good she was. And I say we have a comment about her decline, and I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, well, a lot, like a handful of people talking about how, she's lost it, and it's just kind of like, my thought is she's in a position, especially with the gals she's working with, there's only so much she can do anymore. And back at this time period, I'm not going to say she's necessarily as good as she was 7 years ago, but like also there was just a lot of unique opportunities here to be constantly working with different people. And
Well,
to be
main roster habits too, right? There's certain things
Yeah.
you have to,
Well, what I was going to say too is there was a constant ability to have different kinds of matches. She could squash someone in 30 seconds,
right.
or then have a 15-minute match with Mickie James that's back and forth, that type of thing. So main roster habits, Curtis
She
would have
also
it.
teamed with Alexa Bliss for 6 months, and that can
Figured out how it really works.
Mhm.
I walk through the curtain, Alexa says work. It's predetermined.
I have
hold back on those strikes, will you?
my notes here. Someone in the crowd has a sign that's the Arby's logo, but it says Mickie James for some reason. The referee is Drake Younger. There's a big LOL on that. Man, he was like Paul's hand-picked ref. Like, remember he
Yes,
had
he
him
was.
ref the WrestleMania match?
Yes.
Like, again, we talk about some of these people sometimes. All you have to do is just not tweet. And like with his
Yeah.
case, it's just like, dude, whatever. Believe whatever the fuck you want, but like you had it made, dude. And now, you get to I'm a victim and all that shit because you just said some really repugnant shit that you shouldn't. I loved low budget sounds cruel, but like the small attempts they would make at takeovers to make the entrances pop. In this case, they gave like the front row of the crowd Asuka masks. So when she came down, it was just like a sea of Asuka. It was really cool. Tremendous lockup, some really good grappling here, and not like we'll get to in the last two matches, the kind of it's not the Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, ECW. We get to a point where we like stand off. It's just like really solid back and forth wrestling. And there's that leg capture German on the floor. That's really fantastic.
Yeah.
Mickie breaks out a fucking Moodalock at one point and a thunderous neck breaker. She gets her in this neck breaker, and it might have just been they hit the right spot in the ring, but it just makes this fucking just boom, like this huge, like a boulder falling off a cliff. Very good. The interesting thing about this, and pretty much every match Asuka had in NXT, with the exception of that last match with Ember, is it's a very good match. At no point in time, though, does Asuka look like she's not in control or can't win it at any second, though. And that's not like in the Roman Reigns way of like, we know who's going to win. It's more in like a character way of this person's so good that like she may look like she's on the defense right now, but she can at any second like take this back over. Yeah, not a 5-star classic by any means, but a really cool and for the time creative idea of how to get a good marquee match out of your women's champion who had beaten everybody. And again, just a testament to how polished of a fucking wrestler Mickie James is.
Yeah, absolutely. This NXT TakeOver presentation was so cool. This show's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long. Before every match, they show you like someone in the crowd. The one before this match is Jim Ross. Place pops huge for Jim Ross, and it's just like, I don't know, man. This shit was so just like stripped to its raw ingredients, Like I just love this time.
I was gonna say, having been to that arena before, there's a steakhouse connected to it right outside. So right as JR's like on camera ended, he just walked and got a steak. Give me some baby back ribs.
The thing is, this is a very fondly remembered show. And if you actually look at the lineup, like there's only one like actual great match on the show. It's the DIY match. Like Joe and Shinsuke is good. This is good. Bob and Sean Spears is what you would expect. Like, it's not a bad match, but it's not like like some sort of it. But there's such a dramatic difference between this NXT and the one we got a couple of years later. I think it's so understated how different they are. It's wild to me. Obviously, I prefer this one clearly, but nonetheless.
Did Nakamura and Joe, were any of those matches really good? I can't remember.
I like this second one quite a bit. The TV rematches are not totally convinced Joe was awake when he was wrestling those. They worked one in Japan, and Joe's kind of like, I don't know. Joe in WWE was, and I think Oracle, I remember we talked about this a lot before he came to AEW. I think it's become increasingly clear that like the way you have to wrestle in WWE did not necessarily maximize what he can do as an old guy, right? Like he's kind of better now, and it's a hoop for sure, but like he can be rougher now, obviously, because the AEW guys don't work house shows, right? So he can kind of like just whack guys and clobber them, and you can't do that when you're working 3 dates a week. So even though he's older now, I think he's kind of better now. It's weird.
Having Samoa Joe work a nerve hold in a pay-per-view main event for 5 minutes wasn't a good idea.
Oh, Roman Backlash 08.
They're gonna come around any second now. That's what P.S. Hayes was saying in Gorilla. They're gonna give it time, fellas. Believe in it, you know. But there we go. Bobby, what did you reckon, mate?
Yeah, I thought this was great. It was actually, and I liked it a lot at the time, but it was even better than I remembered it. Just had a great time with it. Something that really stood out was Mickie selling, just kind of making everything Asuka did look like it hurt quite a bit, which, I mean, it might have, honestly. But yeah, just a really nice match. And again, a great concept where, you can bring someone in for a one-off like that. I'm glad Alex brought that up because that's a really good point. And yeah, they delivered, man. It was awesome.
I love to hear it. The Oracle of Wrestling. What did you make of this, man? I'm intrigued.
This was really good. This held up. I remember at the time being like, not so much to the extreme that your brother was when you watched it with him, but I was like, Mickie and Asuka, I was like, okay, Mickey's good, I was like, we'll see. And then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is pretty good. Yeah, that lock up to start was good stuff, man. That was some good chain wrestling as Alex pointed out. I really liked all the one-upsmanship stuff. Just because it shows how charismatic Mickie can be,
right?
Because I mean, we all know Asuka is incredible in terms of just performing overall as as a character and her facial expressions and stuff. But Mickie really kind of went toe to toe with her here. Letting each other into the ring and stuff like that. This match is interesting, as Joe points out, because it is Mickie kind of just hitting a lot of her stuff, but I don't really blame it as much because it's I don't know the whole background. Maybe she knew she was going to be there for permanently after that or whatever, but it was probably just let Mickie hit her stuff, get pops, and then Asuka put her away at the end. I also really appreciated that Mickie learned from the best of Finleys and Regals of the world is when you get put in a submission, you tap right away. You fight and fight and fight and try not to get. But once they lock that thing in, within 2 seconds, you tap because that's it always bothers me. I always go back to it, when Kurt Angle would put in the ankle lock, for 4.5 minutes. It's this isn't believable.
I have a friend who he can't get past that in the Shawn match at 21, and it ruins the whole match for him because Shawn's in the ankle lock for 7 minutes.
Drives me
His
nuts.
name's Devin.
Can't stand the finish right now.
And he does that thing where he takes his hand and he does, and then stops it, and it's dude, come on.
Yeah. I'm always torn on that. I can excuse if I'm really into something, I can excuse it, but I definitely get the point. Absolutely. I will say I did remember this being slightly better than I found it to be when I rewatched it. But that's not a criticism as much as just my memory of it. It's one of those deals where I was watching it. You have to judge a match on what it is, not what you think it should have been. I do think the match would have benefited from more of Asuka in control and Mickie selling because Mickie's such a good underneath babyface. And Asuka is obviously, her offense is spectacular. So I did think Mickie taking so much of it sacrificed that's just a slight bit of quality. But I mean, it's still really good. The work is really high level when they're wrestling for position and they're hitting the mat and transitioning and the German suplex you mentioned earlier. It's there's an awful lot to like here. It's a really good match. My memory was of it being even more, impressive, but that's probably because, as we kind of talked about, not knowing what Mickie had left in 2016, which is hilarious to say now, but it was true. Mickie hadn't had a real run on TV for a couple of years at that point, right? She'd had her kid too. I think that was 2014. So she's awesome here. It's one of those deals where I think it's a great performance as much as anything else.
And it's worth mentioning to that end of because it's only 6-7 years ago, but them takeovers were a BFD, man, back when they happened back then. And
Yes.
Paul knew it, and he knew that there was a certain level of expectation with all of them. So it shows how valued she is as a wrestler that they just could plug her into the co-main event of it. And I don't even know if they use the term co-main event. UFC's rotted my brain, but somewhere there's a T-shirt that has Joe and Nakamura on one side and Mickie and Asuka on the other one.
Ridiculous talent pool. Like, it makes no sense. This was the NXT show, but that's just where they were as a company. Like, Vince couldn't be trusted with any of these people, so they were just playing in this bizarre, awesome offshoot brand. It's very strange.
And then I did forget to mention too, tremendous character moment when the match is over, when Mickie tries to adhere to the code of honor and Asuka just puts the belt in her face and laughs at her. That's some pretty cold shit.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
That's awesome.
I guess like it's interesting too because I'll wait. I concede the floor.
You sure?
No, I'll just go ahead and say it, actually. Yeah, because we see this here in our next match. That was Asuka's main roster debut, and I kind of thumbed through that match and forgot that they had her go fucking 50-50 with Emma on her first match in the company. And,
it's funny you mentioned that, Alex, because I was going to cite that our next match has a higher cage match rating than Emma versus Asuka, which I laughed out loud at. Okay, folks, let's get all cards on the table here. There's an elephant in the room. Alexa works Mickie's hand for approximately 15 seconds in this match. She just works her arm for the most part. I am not the only person who believed that to be the case. A gentleman who I believe went by the name of Kill Owens Kill on Cage Match gave it 4 1/4 and complimented the handwork. I think it's really his fault, not mine. I did not give an official rating, and therefore I will suggest that I'm innocent for now. Okay, TLC 2017 is one of the most hilarious shows ever. The infection that
Ray got scurvy and gave it to the locker room.
that robbed us of Sister Abigail's in-ring debut. We have never gotten that.
Balor.
Factual. It meant that Kurt Angle was a member of the Shield, which produced some of the greatest memes in wrestling history.
When he comes out, okay, I gotta mention this. When he comes out in the aisleway, I'll never forget. We had a living room full of people, okay, watching this thing. Kurt takes that bump to the ropes. We our emotions from howl to shock and horror. We're like
when he does when his head gets all Poor Kurt. He seemed so oblivious in this run, didn't he? Good Lord. Bless his heart. Anyway.
Also, because of that, did get a really good Balor AJ Styles match.
Oh, yeah, that match is tremendous. Yeah. Absolutely. And this was not obviously affected. And so the setup for this was Alexa won a Fatal 5-Way the month before. And then on Raw Talk, she said she cleaned out the division. And Mickie James was brought up and she said she's old. And they do this thing in the video package where every time that Alexa says that Mickey's old, they do a zoom, as though she's saying a slur. It's really, this is kind of bonkers, this video package, because it basically settles into Alexa calls Mickie old, and then Mickie says biscuit butt. And that, unless I missed it, that was pretty much the depth of this program. I think that's pretty much where they settled. So that's where we're at. I mean, it's not exactly blessed with the most epic kind of pre-match towel. But, once they get in there, look, genuinely, all bits aside, I know I have a lot of fun, especially with this topic, but I think this match is, legitimately good. Not great. It's not trying to be great, but, I like this match. This could go many which ways. Here we go, folks. Let's navigate this as best we can. I'm going to start with Oracle, who's chuckling. What did you think of this?
You know what? I remember watching this at the time, being like, "eh," but going back and watching it, I was like, "This is actually good. This is fine." I was surprised because I thought it was gonna totally suck and be awful, but it wasn't. It was good. Mickie's a good babyface, and she sells her arm here really well, not her hand. Kill Owens, kill her arm. She has some decent has a big comeback, gets some decent near falls. Obviously the crowd wasn't totally invested enough into it because they started chanting "We want tables," and hopefully I don't know, maybe they're already setting up for the finish, but I always wonder if Mickie was like, "All right, let's take this home." What it is?
It's the spot where they're actually getting with it, and then they do that spot where Alexa bumps 8 minutes early on the drop kick. And that, the people just completely switch off there,
Yeah.
It's notice it happen, because before that they're because the biggest issue with this match genuinely is that Mickie was not prepared to be challenging for a belt at all. They just threw her out there, right? Like she'd been
Right.
losing on TV every week.
Mhm.
And to make matters worse, Alexa was really popular as a heel. So it's like they were struggling to get them. But they
Yeah.
start getting them and then they right at the end they lose. It's a shame.
Mickie, like Alexa's not terrible in this, but Mickie obviously holds it together. Alexa's problem during this run is that like she's
Too good.
she's
Real.
yeah. Although I will say, great job incorporating a promo into the match with the biscuit butt slap there. But anyways, like Alexa has always been
This is
fearful,
deep
like,
in full.
or seems-
Deep in full here, Oracle of Wrestling. Oh, we lost him. That's what it is.
Am I back? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
So Alexa doesn't. I wonder if it's because I'm using Microsoft Edge or whatever with my new laptop. And I need to get Google Chrome or something.
You need to
You've
use
mostly been fun.
Microsoft Adam Copeland is what you need to use.
True.
Hide your wives. But yeah, Alexa doesn't. It's hard to believe her sometimes just because of the size of like her being in control. Even though occasionally she can do some decent detailed like limb work, she doesn't bump and stooge well enough.
Yeah,
it always frustrates me. But Mickie does hold this match together, and again, Alexa's fine in it. Like it's a good match. I was pleasantly surprised. I was afraid it was going to be like I didn't think it was going to be terrible, but I was like, this might not be that good. This ended up being good. The post match is hokey. Like Mickie cuts a promo, and then like she goes. My favorite part is she goes, "Win some, you lose some." I burst out laughing when she said that. Yeah, this honestly was a good match, and it kind of shows that even when she kind of gets thrown in there, because Alexa had run through the division so much that year, that Mickie can still kind of hold a match together and get something good out of somebody who I was pretty critical of at the time. So yeah, this was another kind of shining match for her, just because it's an opponent that I don't love, but it kind of highlights how good of a babyface she can be, even in sort of thrown together circumstances where a crowd doesn't necessarily have interest coming in.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. I mean, you mentioned the the spot that inspired the greatest tweet in my history, my rich history of tweets.
So good.
The Joe Kobashi tribute spot to lead the match.
Yeah. Incorporating that promo, brother.
Bro, Alexa sells the spank like it's like it's like she over that was still chair.
We need to match up the audio.
Awesome.
We need to match up the audio from Joe Kobashi with the Alexa Mickie clip.
I also
awesome.
like the Kevin Dunn zoom into Alexa's face after like,
that is like it became a meme and it was exhausting, but like when Alexa would feed a comeback, you would see what you mentioned. Like she was never good at feeding those at all. And in a lot of ways, in ring, Alexa would be better as a babyface because she's so little, right? And the people like her. But the one thing that she was genuinely great at was those like WWE Zoom facials. You know, like they loved that shit. She was very good at that, and you get a hilarious one there. So there's some stuff to like here. Bobby, what did you make of this?
Yeah, I was enjoying it quite a bit. You know, I was upset that the crowd turned on it a little bit. I understood it, you know, with the spot that got messed up. Maybe they went a little bit too long, but overall, not a bad match for, you know, the middle of a pay-per-view in 2017. I thought there was a lot of good stuff here, and Oracle laid a lot of it out nicely. And I mean, yeah, I had a good time with it. You know, it's nothing that I think you need to go out of your way to watch necessarily, but it's a nice little match.
It's like one of those. Ready, Oracle? Ready for this? It's like one. You know when WCW had the International Heavyweight title, and like Barry Windham or Rick Rude would work a nice little 12-minute match with the boss or Arn Anderson. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's what I saw here, man. You know, 12 minutes, some limb work, good old-fashioned spanking spot, you know, DDT finish. It's the fundamentals, brother. This is the kind of thing that keeps the business moving. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there, folks. Alex, what did you think of this?
Couple notes. First of all, that aforementioned Shield match. Dean Ambrose, Kurt Angle, Seth Rollins defeated Braun Strowman, Cesaro, Kane, Sheamus, and The Miz 35-29. Dave Meltzer's rating 4.25.
Oh. Incredible.
The old man, that's when we should have taken away his computer at that point. But all right, what do we got here, man? My note here. The Performance Center success story, Alexa Bliss. I
Yep.
still mean that and believe that. You can shove it. Yeah, I think Mickie was how old I am now during this match, and the thing was like, she's old. And dude, Booker is insane on commentary in this match because
Yes, he is.
Corey says something like, and Mickey's got a problem for some reason, and Book's like, you try being called old. And then later in the match, he starts comparing Mickie James to the Rock and Roll Express. He's like, you know, when I was younger, it was like the Rock and Roll Express. I wanted to test myself against them.
What about when he says, like, he does the complete opposite of the usual psychology, and he explains that if it's a straight up fist fight, Alex will win. She's the heel, bro. She's 5 foot tall. Anyway, carry on, Alex.
I guess this is the match where I'd want to put over Mickie James. Like, she just snaps off her offense and, like, all right. She, first of all, was clearly not trained in the WWE system because they're women. The collar and elbow is always hop, skip, and a jump. You got to kind of go into it the way their women lock up. Alexa has the Bart Simpson arms here, though. She kind of winds up into the lock up, but
You gotta
she
be big,
snaps off
man.
her.
You gotta be big, you know. You gotta
That's
be big.
right.
He's gotta be big.
So Mickie, like, her selling and just all right. So my takeaway from a lot of modern wrestlers, and this isn't just women's wrestlers, this is just kind of what they do. They have modern wrestlers basically have like 3 cells. I'm surprised. Ow, that hurts. Or like, you know, I'm hulking up. I'm mad. And like, Mickie is an example of someone who, as we've been talking about through this, is just a great performer for like a throwback type thing. Like, I specifically made it a point in this match of watching her face throughout the entire thing, and it's like it goes from I'm fucking with you to all right, now I'm out wrestling you to frustration to okay, I got to get this back in my favor. And it's just like, you know, it really feels like a lot of wrestlers approach and are trained now with like every match is 3 acts. There's the first act where, you know, you exchange and you're respectful. And then there's the second act where it's just crazy, you know, back and forth. And, you know, it's who can get the better of the other one. And then the last is just like we kick out of each other's finishers until something happens. And that whole time, you know, we're all like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it's just kind of, it's repetitive and nothing sticks out. And because of that, also nothing seems engaging and like authentic. It's I'm not telling any tales here. Gunther is probably the best wrestler in the WWE right now, and part of that is because he treats every match differently, and also you can tell on his face like where he's at in the match. And
Did you see the Gable match last night? It was good.
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't either, but I believe it. I mean, it's those guys, and it's just Mickey's great here. You know, even little things like shaking out the arm or the hand or whatever when you get a moment away, and like that's. I posted that clip not long ago from like Raw Homecoming where Pat Patterson punches Rob Conway, and it's better than any punch you'll see today. He punches him, and then he kind of grabs his hand because he's like an old man, and like, oh, that hurt. It's you know, I say it's not difficult, but then you watch someone like Mickie James like really just get cooking in a 7-minute in your house match like this, and it's like, yeah, it is difficult because you have to think about all the different facets, and you know, it's like a fucking you're weaving a blanket here pretty much is what's happening. And her selling is just fantastic too. There's different degrees of selling. There's like that's inconvenient, that hurts, I'm fucking dead. It's not just all like you know. Cornette said about Gargano one time he has the I'm dead face or I'm happy face, like you know, it's and that's kind of emblematic, or not emblematic, but I think that summarizes a lot of my issues with some of the shit today. Good striking exchange that goes a little bit modern when they run into each other with the 2 kicks. Mickie just busts out a really good looking O'Connor roll out of nowhere that Alexa really rolls with well. There's a fan opposite Hardcam who has a bright red afro and he looks so bored. It's just this one shot of him that he's just sitting there like with his glasses on and he's got this fucking Ronald McDonald afro going on. It was something so weird I had to take note of it. Then of course the heel wins. That's LOL. Vince
Oh,
is
it's
still
so
definitely in
dumb,
control.
mate. It's so dumb.
Oh,
And it carries on too. She beats her again after this. It's like, why?
We talked about it earlier, and I posted it on Twitter. Mickie James, who, I don't want to boil this down to base level like attractiveness because that's not what it's about, but like objectively is one of the most naturally beautiful women that's ever been in wrestling. And they did a storyline where she was fat, and then did a storyline where she was old, and it's just like
She's also like 36 here.
that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
Like,
I will say this once, but
Mhm.
how can you get hotter every year?
yeah,
Well, I'm
She's-
trying my best.
she's impressive in that way, and I mean that genuinely too. And it's
Yeah.
part of the deal being on TV is you wear makeup and shit. But like,
Yeah,
I remember
sure.
a couple years ago when Mickie was doing like the cameos, she would just do them without makeup on, and people were like blown away at how like beautiful she was like without makeup. It's like, yeah, she's a very, very beautiful person, and so like it has to be what we kind of were made allusion to earlier. Vince hates Southern people, and then also, I imagine Cornette really liked her and talked her up. So we got to the fat thing though, just
That's awful, yeah.
that it just doesn't really make any sense too. Especially even at that point in time was when they were still like, oh, little kids love our show, and it's like, what kind of message are you sending to little kids that of all the shit you guys do, it's one of the most dangerous things you can say is this incredibly athletic woman is fat, and what does that lead people to believe? Anyway, fun little match, and I don't watch every match like I do taking notes for when we do this shit. So like if I just kind of watch this on a random Tuesday, not saying I get the same stuff away from it, but since I'm like zoned in on her, like what she's doing and how she's wrestling and shit, like took a lot away from it, just how solid she is. And comparatively speaking to a lot of wrestlers of today, I remember reading when she had that match with Alley Cat that it was a bit disastrous, and that didn't surprise me at all, because like you gotta you can't keep up with like fucking Leo DiCaprio if you're a community theater expert. So it's
Wow.
it's
Live
just
around there.
different levels to this shit, and she excels, excuse me, in a way that is not taught anymore. And it
Yeah.
seems like my main takeaway from this, I should say, is my God, how invaluable she could be as a trainer at their performance center if they wanted that. But also, they had Chris Hero there who tried to teach people and he got in trouble for it. So it's like they don't want to teach people how to do what a Mickie James or a Chris Hero can do. They want to, I don't know what they want to teach them, but it's not that. But if tomorrow Tony Khan handed me the keys to the kingdom or something, she'd be one of the first people I got and said, hey,
Don't take them, brother. Give them back.
all right, let me rephrase that. If I won $1 million or more than that, I need like $1 billion. But if I had a wrestling company and I was starting a training school, Chris Hero and Mickie James would be two of the first people I had there to train.
I love it. To your point about the selling, Mickie does that thing too that's way underutilized now, where she like frames her arm differently and she changes her stance so that her arm's further away, and like that's the best part of the match by far. Her saying, and Alexa's stuff on the arm is good too. When they get into the back and forth moves, it's like, it's like whatever.
Mickie
I thought
also
that
has
stuff was really good, genuinely.
up until like the final stanza of what we're doing. Sean, I can be complimentary of Sean. She has that kip up that isn't pretty, and you don't know if she's going to hit it every time she does it, and it's like it makes it that like she's tired but she's still trying to fire herself up. And that was Sean in his heyday in like 95 96, the way he would kip up was that same way. He would go like look dead and then come up. And so what we're saying here, it's funny, I just went on about how beautiful she is, but not everything she does is pretty, and that's one of the biggest problems with wrestling today, in my opinion, is everyone obsesses with making everything look so fucking pretty.
I agree. Everything has to be flawless. I agree. So everything has to be super smooth, right? this did stand out. Like this, I've often said that Alexa was a great heel in a version of WWE that refused to have baby faces. And it was like this disastrous combination because she would just be used as like Vince's voice. She would just cut down all these baby faces and beat them. This is not the worst example, but this is a pretty bad one. Like, I don't get
She's the
telling
one who
story
beat
this
Bailey
way,
in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then she did the deal with Sasha where she said, you can't defend the belt. And like, that was her role at the time. And it's puzzling to me. And like, I'm sure there are reasons and stuff, but watching this match, it's like the people like her. Their hesitation to flip her the other way is fascinating. They took so long to do it. Because do you remember when she was hurt? She was like a tweener. How weird that shit was when she was the talk show host.
She was doing her stupid. Oh god, they had her in a talk show. The talk show thing in WWE. God, why?
And do you remember they only once actually let it do like a promo? Because remember the one with Bailey that people liked?
Yep.
There's like a famous one where Bailey cuts like her first like big promo. And it was like, yeah, the talk show is supposed to just be a chance for people to cut promos. It's not supposed to be like a fucking set piece where you do like romance and like you do like a soap opera, But anyway, that's a different conversation. But
the Cutting Edge, the Peep Show, Carlitos,
this, like,
Cabana.
That was it.
I was like, what? Like, why did it take them so long to do that?
Every damn week on Raw for.
Yep.
Well,
Highlight Reel 2 is one of those things that I'm sure Jericho would tell you is a rousing success.
Revolutionary, yeah, absolutely.
Revolutionary, that's it, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I didn't get that at all. Watching this back, it was even more like bizarre to me because you have someone who's like popular and is working a heat segment. It's like that's WWE, I don't know. It makes it harder for the babyface. But nonetheless, I like the match. Mickie has a great performance in it. It's a shame that not only she lost the feud, but she then went back to being Alexa's partner without any explanation or reason.
You win some, you lose some.
You do, yeah. And then she was part of because Alexa's next program was doing the stuff with Nia, and Mickie was part of that. It's like, get a clue.
Oh my God, yes. That was Alexa bullied Nia, right? For being fat or whatever. And then they went 50-50 at WrestleMania.
Oh yeah. So I don't get these people, I just don't understand it. Honestly, I put this on the lineup and popped myself huge, and I like the match. But I spent most of it unable to even watch the match because I was just watching it thinking, what is wrong with this company? They were so warped, It's like
it's you don't have to travel very far. The night after that Asuka match we were just talking about, that was when Brock when Goldberg beat Brock in like a minute, and like everyone lost their mind, and it's just like. I guess the moral of that story is they do know what to do, but you have to have enough like pull for them to let you do it. And like in a case like Mickie James or Alexa Bliss, they're just dance, damn it.
It's weird. It's a really strange time, and like the WrestleMania after this, Bailey and Sasha are in like the Battle Royal to do the Nia Jax coronation. It's like
Sasha was on the dark match of the show. I have the card pulled up. She went 10 minutes with Alicia Fox on the dark match.
Oh, and that was when she was doing like the Noam Dar stuff, I think, wasn't it? That might have been before, actually, Oracle. When was that?
God, I forgot when they were
in the late spring of 17, early summer.
Okay.
When they tried to incorporate the women into 205 Live.
So who did Alexa work with? Saved it. Of course, yeah. Best worker 2018. Who did Alexa work with between this and Nia?
She wrestled Charlotte at Survivor Series 2017.
Who?
Okay.
Charlotte.
Clash of the Titans. That's another classic one. Like
I was at that show and I was like, huh? That was
again, and perfect example of what we're talking about, where they had Alexa work a 10-minute heat segment over Charlotte, who is legitimately a foot taller than her. It's like, getting this the wrong way around, fellas, Like, but anyway. The chamber too, right? Anyway. We'll get to this on the Alexa Grin Grappler, folks. I apologize, but Mickie James is awesome in this match. Seriously, it's a good wrestling match.
If and when the Alexa Grin Grappler comes, we have to do the Alexa and Nikki Cross versus Iconics match from SummerSlam 2019 that everyone got really mad about because Alexa wore Buzz Lightyear gear and did a spot where she like shot a laser at one of the Iconics.
Oh yeah. everyone got people in the company got mad about that. I think they thought they were doing like Mid South or something.
You know who didn't get mad? Me in the upper deck drinking a Molson's. I was just like, hell yeah.
It was a pre-show match.
Yeah.
It's fucking like, who was it? Like, P.S. Hayes and Gorilla, like,
Oh, god damn it.
not
Vance!
taking the business seriously, Nonetheless, speaking of Nikki Cross, Matt, confirmed shooting out talking about Starcade. WWF's Starcade. Like, she's like one of the weirdest things they've ever done when they just made Starcade like an annual network event. And we were trying to figure out what were the good things on Starcade. And I was reminded of the Fatal 4-Way tag match. I promise, folks. I'm gonna bring this up for you any moment now. Okay, here we go. This is incredible. This is the match, Fatal 4-Way tag. We have Asuka and Io. No, my bad. Io's not around. It was Asuka and Kairi, right? I'm trying to find the picture.
Wow.
I can't find it.
Wow.
Asuka, was it Kabuki Warriors?
Yes.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
She's coming back, Alex.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard such things. Yeah.
Yeah. It was okay, I've got the graphic, and the graphic's very funny. Asuka and Kairi, Alexa and Nikki, Becky and Charlotte, Bayley and Sasha. Nikki Cross being in that match is the greatest thing that ever happened in the history of the sport. That's awesome. That's like amazing. That lineup is fucking ridiculous. That was on Starcade.
So, all right.
The
year before, 2018, WWF Starcade in Cincinnati, Ohio. I assume
he was at that one. He was, he was at that one.
Okay, Bayley, Dana Brooke, Ember Moon, and Sasha defeated Alicia Fox, Mickie James, Nia Jax, and Tamina.
They can't all be winners. You know what I mean?
Well, my bigger question is then, did Mickie James work Starcade? Do we count that?
Yes, absolutely.
So
I count it with Alexa, absolutely.
Mickie James has worked Final Battle, Starcade, Triple Mania, Bound for Glory, and WrestleMania.
There you go.
Yep.
I think the only person who's got her beat is Jeff Jarrett because Jeff worked a Wrestle Kingdom.
Of course he did. Yeah. Saying that though, Jeff hasn't worked Final Battle, right? So.
Speaking of Mickie James,
always this year.
I'm reminded of that squash she had with Ronda. That was awesome. Where like Mickie just bumped around for her and took like crazy, hip toss whips and like arm whips and shit that she bumped like amazingly for her.
That match
I think that was July of 18 or August of 18 on Raw.
That match also had very slight Regal Goldberg vibes because Ronda looked slightly confused what was happening at times, which is real grabs. I love it.
Isn't it funny how because of what's happened over the past 2 years, year and a half, Ronda Rousey had like arguably the best rookie year ever in wrestling. Ronda, and like just no one will remember it now because it's just been so bad.
She had a hell of a last match. So anyway, other hits for Act 2. I don't remember the match, if it was good or not, but Mickie probably took the best like eclipse ever from Ember. Mm-hmm. The Becky Lynch match is pretty good from the Elimination Chamber 2017. That was like either that or the Alexa match for the second match.
It was her in the Thunderdome that had that just fucking abysmal match with Asuka where she just stopped selling in the finish and like motion to the ref, right?
Yeah, that was unfortunate. She had a real rough run in the Thunderdome, which
we all did.
Yeah, fair. We can relate. Unfortunately, she didn't get many chances to do real matches in this run. I mean, she's awesome in the chamber. She's in it for like 5 minutes and dives off the top of the pod.
Yeah,
because the bit there was Alexa like recruited her to help her, and then she's out before Alexa even gets in because again, Mickie can't be treated as any kind of important player. So
I'm not off base with what I said, right? They had Mickie James there, and she could have helped their women's roster dramatically, and they just chose. Okay.
Oh,
but like she should have been. Even just on screen, like she should have been doing so much more. It's so puzzling.
Oh yeah,
especially once they got the tag division rolling. It's like she's like the perfect candidate to give like a younger partner and let them.
This is the perfect time to talk about it, as Willie mentions. The trash bag incident. Yeah.
Got Mark Carrano fired, so it was worth it.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
He was even a scumbag on those Toto Divas episodes. Remember?
Oh yeah.
I forgot about that too, man. Wonder she good. I'm glad she got to fucking come out as the TNA champion at the Royal Rumble. They called her fat, old, and sent her shit in a trash bag to her. Fuck them, man.
Yeah.
It's so puzzling because her reputation in the industry is like pristine, and everyone who works for her likes her, but they just, as a company, seem to hate her. It's like, it's really odd. I don't know the deal.
It's
Yeah.
it's honestly that's
It's not odd at all, I suppose. It's exactly what you'd expect. Yeah.
well, it's just Vince is a psychotic person, and like I'm sure she put the wrong kind of like sugar in her coffee the first time you met her, and he just hated her forever because we know Vince is like a weirdo like that.
It
So.
is that random, genuinely. Yeah. Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
sucks.
the Rumble thing's worth the call out because that's, you know, we talk about those NXT shows and how weird some of them are on paper. We were talking on the episode that does not exist about just how loaded like the Bola lineups used to be and how like weird that is. But like wrestling just moves so fast now. It's fast and slow, but like people just forget. It's the Twitter generation, you know. That was 5 minutes ago, so people forget. She was a TNA champion and came out with the TNA belt to her TNA theme in the Royal Rumble. That was weird, man. That was like
pretty cool. Pretty damn cool.
Very cool, and something that's a feather in her cap. No one else has ever done that.
Mm-hmm.
I assume no one else ever will either. I mean, I don't know if Eric Young's going to be kind of. Yeah. Oh yeah, we will. Any other matches from the second WWE run? I think that's about it, right? She didn't get a lot of chances to wrestle real matches.
Yeah, not really.
She was in a lot of tags in like 2018 where she looked pretty good, but like I mean, there's
is she in any of the battle royals at WrestleMania?
She is.
She was in the one I was at. I think,
she was in 35, the WrestleMania 35 battle royal.
She takes a hellacious beating from Nia before the New Orleans match with Alexa. Remember, she takes like an absolute fucking. She just gets the shit kicked out before the bell.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. She tried her best, folks. That's the best way to sum up Act 2. All right. We jump ahead here. What was like 5 years removed from the last match, the Alexa match, to Act 3. And, you know, the kind of rebuild post WWE. She did some stuff in NWA. In Impact, she won the Knockouts title in October 2021 at Bound for Glory. She defeated Deonna Purrazzo. Then the following January, she main evented Hard to Kill with Deonna, and that was the month she did the Rumble spots. That's all before our last two matches here. And then she lost a match to Chelsea Green, and she did a pre-tape where she was walking out the building and said, I'm going home and I'm not, I'm done, basically. Which set up this last rodeo angle, which is like, and I want to be very, look, TNA is what it is at this point. No one really watches. But many people who are not the freaks and like everything they do is good have said to me this angle was awesome because she had a good match on TV almost every week. She wrestled like their whole roster basically, and we've got a couple of matches from that. The last one being the kind of the conclusion to that story. Now here we go. Deonna Purrazzo, yes.
Real quick, because I was scrolling through Impact Plus, and one of them said Mia Yim. Did she work for Impact real quick when she was gone? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was there alongside Gallows and Anderson, ironically, before now she's with them in the OC, right? So, she actually played that perfectly because she didn't sign a deal. She signed a 6-month deal, I think. Nailed it. Beautiful. They had a good match, actually. I'm glad you brought it up. So, Deonna Purrazzo has her first match. This is the December 1st edition of Impact's TV. The deal with the last rodeo thing is if she loses, she has to retire. Now, I like Deonna Purrazzo a lot. I think she's a very good professional wrestler. I did not think this was the best encapsulation of that. Not that it's bad, but brother, they may as well be working in an empty building for most of this. I mean, this is a really tough atmosphere to do TV. I mean, it's so quiet. I mean, the second match actually has a pretty good atmosphere. It's a pay-per-view crowd, and it's not a big crowd, but they're into it. I felt bad for them with this. They go about 15 minutes. They barely get to make any noise for the first 10. It's quite the ride. Bobby, what did you make of Deonna and Mickie?
Yeah, I'm kind of in a similar boat. Like, I didn't really care for it that much. I thought the ring was just super loud, but it was just no one was making any noise. It didn't work, man. It was missing something. Like, well, yeah. I like the angle from kind of what I was piecing together. It kind of seemed like a better version of what they tried to do with Flair leading up to WrestleMania 24.
Oh my god!
And this just didn't work, and it's unfortunate. And I got mad at cage match again because it was the second best match of her career apparently, and it wasn't even the second best match of the 6 that we watched. So
I thought it was the worst match we did, honestly. And I liked Diana. I did not think this was particularly good. I think Diana's tremendous, but it is what it is. I mean,
no, I'm with you.
yeah. This was a case of like a modern match going long and people just being like, yes, 4 stars. You know, like there's not a lot here. There's not a lot of meat on the bone here, Oracle. What did you think?
Yeah, it's funny. I watched it just last night, and I remember thinking it was like solid, but like
that's it,
it's
right?
the one match I don't really remember anything from of like the 6.
Yeah,
like it's that's weird because like I was like shouting over my AC unit, and then all of a sudden it went off, and now I can hear myself shouting. Anyways, yeah.
Anyways,
this was fine. I've seen better Diana matches and better Diana. That's how I almost said that. But yeah, it was just kind of there. A terrible atmosphere, like you said.
oh.
You know, some of the back and forth was okay at the end. Mickie pulled out the win, but this was probably the least match of all of them, or at least it was the least memorable.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's not the work's bad. It's just it has no juice as like a piece of entertainment because of the atmosphere and there is some nice. I mean, Diana hits a brain buster out of nowhere at one point, which did pop me. Yeah, she's a really good wrestler. Like her cutoff here is like the Samoa Joe back elbow. I was like, whoa, that's pretty sweet. Like you don't see that a lot now, right? Like, there's some stuff to like. It just didn't. And to be honest, I've seen their other matches. I don't think they were a great pairing for one another. Weirdly, they never seem to quite crack it in their 3 matches that I saw. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Alex, what did you think of this one, mate?
Is this Diana gal? Was she one of the people? I remember the other 3. It was Tessa, Chelsea, and I guess I don't remember. Was she in that 4-way at All In?
Britt was in it and Madison Rain was in it, I think.
Okay, Britt was the one I was thinking of. Okay.
Madison Rain was in it, right? I think.
I think
she was. Bob, check research this first, Bob. Go Carol next, Carol.
I felt like I'd seen her somewhere before. Okay. She had like a cup of coffee in WWE, right?
Yeah, she was around in WWE, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Britt, Madison, Tessa, and Chelsea.
Yeah.
All right. Well, did you see we're getting the finally physical release of All In?
Really, the whole thing?
Well, that's the thing. The cover has like a Criterion quality of just like the arena because they can't show half of the people that were on that show.
Yeah, I want to edit some of that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see how that turns out.
It will be interesting.
Yeah. I'm not doing a bit. This is the first TNA match I've watched in literally as long as I can remember. I didn't even like tune in when Kenny was doing shit there. It's they shoot their show and like they try to present it like it's AEW or WWE and like
I don't get it.
Honestly, they'd be better suited like shooting like GCW does with like a handheld that kind of just like feels more like guerrilla style and more just kind of like in your face.
And get rid of the stage too, bro. There's no need for a stage when you have that few people in there, you know?
This match in particular, they're doing like the Kevin Dunn camera cuts and it's just like, dude, this not a good look, man. And Bob brought it up. The first bump, I think it's like a snapmare. The ring, I was just like, Jesus Christ, dude. It's like was it like 97, like barely legal ECW pay-per-view. That is the most mic'd a ring has ever been until this match. Joe stole my thunder. I was going to say that Mickie and Diana hop on a plane first class and fly to the Tokyo Dome for that brain buster. It's a hell of a one. This does have what I was talking about earlier, that RVD Jerry Lynn counter standoff, and it's just kind of like, dude, we're so far past that in wrestling that it, in my opinion, it's not what we should be really concerning ourselves with. The one thing that's fun about this match that I did take, this is when I mentioned that there's a sequence in this where Mickey's just moving too fast and Diana,
that's not Diana's bag. Yeah, she's very like. There's matches of hers she did pop you
because she is very methodical and like
very technical. Yeah, like I was surprised. She doesn't really
love
work
her finish. That submission hold, like the double shoulder lock. That's awesome.
She's got some really good. This didn't highlight her strengths very much, but it's what it is.
Oh, and she does like this was not a good showing for her for me because she does the one thing that I will immediately write you off for, I should say. She takes an offensive maneuver and slaps her own leg to sell it, and I was just like, all right, this is we've lost the point of the plot here. But positively speaking about our subject du jour, Mickie James, this is the one. It's kind of fun because there's a bunch of it's a cosmic gumbo. It's a jambalaya of all the spots we saw in the 4 matches leading up to this. You know, the single leg crab, that boot she does, the splits, and yeah, it's enjoyable. It's just the cool submission hold. I like Deanna's finisher, and then the veteran pin I really liked. How she pulls the tights and then kind of has that shit-eating grin on her face when she does it. My other point about these, I'll wait until the next match, but it was fine, and it's you know, this is on the better side of 20 years removed from that Trish match we talked about an hour or so ago, and she still is in there moving, and, you know, that's part of the deal also of having just a old school style where you're not falling on your head constantly or you know, not doing crazy Foley shit. And so she just polished and good and can keep up what she's doing. That was someone was talking about Kota Ibushi's washed. Can you believe it? I was like, that dude's just, all he's been doing is falling on his head for 20 years. Yes, of course I can believe it. So if you're just wrestling it.
Hey, I'd come out and do shitty punches in a cage match too if I could, you know, get paid for it.
I mean, I still like him, but that's the whole argument. It's like you see people talk about that, and no one's saying Mickie James is washed. She might have slowed down a tick, but she ain't washed.
Absolutely. I do know she just came back from the injury that ended this Knockouts title reign. So hopefully she's working London this weekend.
When's her hubby going to get her back in the Fed?
Well, we shall see. He's got to get himself through the ropes first. He's operating as an agent right now, which is cool and all, but he's 36. There's no way he must want to work, right? He has to.
Ooh, he's the younger one in the relationship. Spicy.
I must say, I was watching that collision on Saturday. Like, man, I don't know why people bully me about this. Aldis would be better than most of these. Anyway, am I wrong, Oracle? Come on, I mean, we'll do it afterwards.
That middle 80, huh? That middle 80 minutes. Oh, brother.
Oh, show, brother. All right, here we go. It's a nice match. It's not. It's kind of ridiculous the way it's rated, but that's not their fault. So whatever. Okay, last match. Jordan Grace, hard to kill. This is the main event of the paper. I
was just gonna say there's a whole subsection of human beings that hate Kenny Omega just because of the way his matches are rated, and that's not his fault. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Hard to kill main event. This was the second straight year she closed this pay-per-view for them, which is genuinely cool. She has the Native American entrance here too. Tara is in the crowd, which is a nice kind of little, Grin Grappler connective tissue there, and she's weeping and yelling the whole match, which is very funny. There's a much better crowd for this, and there is genuine gravity because I do think you could talk yourself into this being her last match. The TV is obviously building to say the last match ends with Jordan coming out, right? So when it's a title match, you can talk yourself, and the people, there is a genuine sense of anxious energy in the building, and it's good stuff. I found this to be quite moving, even though I had some issues with the wrestling match itself. With that being said, genuinely, I do think we had to do this match. This is like Mickey's happy ending, right? After the match, her family gets in the ring. It's a cool moment, man. It's nice to see. As a match, it's interesting, and I like a lot of it, but it has some issues for me personally. I'll start with you, Bobby. What did you make of Jordan Grace and Mickie James?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. I think the environment really did add to it. They kind of kept it simple for the most part, just kind of underdog, babyface, monster heel sort of stuff. And it worked for me for the most part. A couple of false finishes are really good. There's a part at the end where Mickie clearly tapped and they had to kind of cover for it, which that was a little strange. But and then I did kind of the finish kind of felt like it was out of desperation. She didn't have anything left. She had to do that. And then if it didn't work, she was just kind of screwed. So I like that part. Overall, it was entertaining.
There's some really good stuff in here. The sequence where Mickey's upset that she's being kind of shrugged off by Jordan, and she throws those slaps, and Jordan throws one, and she takes she lands on her face as a face plant cell. That was sweet. I like that. There's some really good stuff in the first act, the power moves of Jordan Grace, and the way Mickie kind of sells and registers those, I liked a lot. Alex, what did you make of this?
Yeah, my first note was like, this main evented. That's pretty cool. I did notice too, Joe, that logo they have for the show, that Hard to Kill, and that they got the Friday the 13th logo below it. Victor Miller saw that shit and he was just like, cease and desist, motherfucker. That dude will cut you off any chance he gets.
Absolutely.
All right, what do we got here? Jordan Grace from Elgin, Texas, about a 30-minute drive from Austin. That's where my parents live. But she now is being billed from Austin, Texas. And it's like, man, no. Elgin's got good barbecue. They got a fucking fantastic flea market. What are you doing? Come on, own up to it. What do we got here? I did pop for Mickie James doing old school. Ooh, I did. I like pumped my fist and audibly reacted when Mickie had a counter for Jordan Grace's counter to her DDT, where she countered it in the guillotine. I thought that was fantastic. No one should ever kick out of the jackhammer. There was a really good small package counter. I laughed to myself when they were calling Jordan Grace the Juggernaut, and I remembered like that 2-month window when they tried to get Roman Reigns over as the Juggernaut when they were, in year 3 of his failed babyface push. The selling in the choke at the end is phenomenal, where Mickey's like, it looks like her eyes are gonna like almost pop out, but she's also like dead faced and just kind of like, it makes it seem as though all of her energy is going into trying to save herself. And if you've ever seen someone in the UFC get choked out unconscious for real, that's basically what their face does. It just fucking drains and loses all emotion. Okay, so my bigger point of contention with these last two and a lot of women's matches in general today, I'm going to like workshop my thoughts on this aloud. So just I'll get to the point eventually. And we've seen this in the matches we've talked about so far. Women's wrestling can offer something unique and different to what the men's matches can. And I'm not talking about, Russo style or brawn panties, that type of shit. When, even taking away like the sexualization and like the spot from that Trish Mickie match, that's an interesting match. And it's interesting from the perspective of 2 women having it. That Tara and Mickie James match is an interesting brawl, and it's interesting because it's 2 women trying to beat the shit out of each other. This cycle we've gotten into now, and it's not just I'm trying to say that women are trying to be like the men. It's just every match is exactly the same.
Right.
And I feel, and that like this, I was watching this, and basically Jordan Grace is just like doing what Roman Reigns does, and just like conquers somebody and kind of talks shit standing over him, that type of thing. And trust me, there's plenty of space also in wrestling for like the giant monster woman that destroys people in matches, but like the high spots and the standoffs and the shit, like there's no separation and uniqueness to these matches versus I'm sure anything else that happened on the show with I don't know who's in TNA, but
the main event match template has become like universal. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think you look at like everyone always talks about Bayley and Sasha, and of course, understandably so, because that was like on a really big scale. But that match is just a bunch of tribute spots to like Rey Mysterio and shit they like. I always go to Sasha and Becky from the takeover. I think that was before
that. Match is great. Yeah,
it's an excellent match, and it's an excellent women's match because they do things that are unique to women wrestling as opposed to just trying to replicate what the dudes do. And I think I'm not going to say it's we watch like a thing devolve or anything, but it's just kind of interesting to see. I think the fans still would want to see something like Tara and Mickie or Mickie and Trish versus just like, oh, work rate, oh, kick out. And I don't mean to like that triple threat at SummerSlam. Like, what was that? That's just like,
right.
And it's coming from a place of those gals and the people putting the match together thinking that that's what the fans want to see is just high spot and creative finish, ingenuity. What if you did this? What if you small package counter out of this? And it's just kind of like, it's a pendulum and it's cyclical. So I'm assuming we're going to get back to a point where does begin to be a differentiation between women's matches and guys matches, just from like a plain narrative standpoint, because obviously aesthetically and all that they are different, but it just seems like everyone's telling the same story, and I feel like there's something that kind of gets lost in that is available and it's right there. Mickie still offered enough of that here that it her performance singularly does seem different. And Jordan Grace, she wrestles just as many intergender matches as she does, so I don't know what she thinks is what fans want to see and what's supposed to work. I just know that I watch something like this and I'm like, you guys could probably do something different that's better, and to kind of separate yourself.
I think it's like it's interesting because I don't think it's a women's wrestling thing so much as that's just like kind of where we're at with wrestling now. Oracle and I talk about it a lot, like the overlap in content and concept when it comes to a big match now. Very seldom do things stand out in that regard,
Yeah, and that's definitely right. Everything's just so uniform, but like, and it's inherently going to be this way. If Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins had a match where they just pulled each other's hair the whole time, or like did that and kind of had to be broken apart, people are gonna be like, what the fuck was that? And I don't think it's like inappropriate to say that as a female performer, you can do some different things. You can sell differently.
Right, no,
you
I agree,
implement different things that, the gentleman can't. And that's not a bad thing. I know the whole point of the women's revolution and whatnot was that the women need to be equal to men. I'm fine with that. We've had in the past, when did that start? 6 or 7 years. It's probably been 50-50 in the WWF as far as like great matches from, what gender you want to pick or whatnot. But it's that doesn't mean they have to both be uniform. And I think that,
there are quirks that women's wrestling allows and vice versa that can be utilized. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I watch something like this and it's like, I understand what the intended goal is here. And it's just like I'd like to see a little bit more diversity or things mixed up a little bit. Not to say I dislike this match or anything. Jordan Grace is kind of whatever with me. It's she Bob, I'm surprised you didn't bring up that you got her to donate $5,000 to charity. So that's
true.
That honestly, that's her enduring legacy with me. But sorry, that was just like a thread of a thought. So I thank y'all for allowing me to kind of talk out my feelings on that there. But it's just kind of one of the things I took away from watching this. But I did enjoy it, and it was nice having watched that Alexa match for Mickie to win when she should have won. That was a nice way to finish this.
No, I'm glad. I mean, it's an interesting point. I'm torn on it. I do think like a part of me is when I watch these epic women's title matches, I'm like, yeah, like good. Mickey's been wrestling for 20 years and she's never got a chance to have like an actual main event epic, like fuck, I have to watch these dudes work them every month, and like it's like there is a big there was recently an Athena Willow match that I loved. Yeah, the Athena Willow match I loved had ingredients I don't love kind of ordinarily. Like they do a lot of tribute spots, but they're paying homage to the women of Ring of Honor's past, and like a big part of me is like, man, fuck what I usually think. That's awesome. They can actually do that in the main event of a pay-per-view. Like I'm torn on it. I definitely think there's a truth to like beyond women's wrestling. Like I think it's more a case of, junior heavyweights wrestling like heavyweights. Women's wrestling being like this. It's like everything's kind of homogenized and uniform, and there's so much overlap in terms of the ideas that go into these matches. And you said it. I mean, there are spots in this match where it's like, this is just how we do the main event now.
Uh-huh.
But I do think there is an appeal to, in this individual case, beyond your point, just seeing Mickie get a chance to work one is kind of like, there's a novelty to that, So it's interesting. I definitely think there's something to it. Oracle and I talk about a lot, variety and so on and so forth. But first, Oracle, what did you make of the match yourself, mate?
I thought this was really good. I just appreciated the kind of environment and kind of spectacle of it, and Mickie getting the cool entrance and the big post match celebration, and it was an opportunity for her to kind of work kind of like a big main event style match, which is modern, which is not my favorite type of thing, but she did it well enough. I thought she did it just as well as anybody else does. There was some neat stuff, neat moves, which again I don't care about as much as others, but some of them hit really well, and the weakest part of the match was the spot that Bobby pointed out, the weird like tap out spot that was
Strange,
bizarre.
yeah.
That definitely hurt the match, probably even a good deal. But overall, it was just I just appreciated. I thought it was a kind of a fitting end to the Grin Grappler project here in terms of on Mickie, because also like in the match, like Tom Phillips is talking about how many titles she's won in the Trish feud, and Victoria Tara's out there in the front row. So like it was a good kind of encapsulation of everything we talked about, and Mickie hits all of her big spots, and that we've seen throughout this throughout the 6 matches. So I appreciated it overall as like a whole, with like when you include all the matches, and overall as a match itself, I thought it was really good. I wasn't blown away by it, but I was pleasantly surprised, and was kind of like, oh, I'm glad I watched this. Otherwise, if we hadn't done this, I probably would never have gone to watch that match, and it was good enough where I was happy I saw it.
I will say they should have just gone home on that small package. The inside cradle. The place was, I think they would have blew if they'd have gone on that. People would get ready to jump up, like that's one of those deals where I just wish they'd called it audible and just gone home there, because the rest of it's like good, but it gets back to Alex's point where the rest of it is very much like we will now do the main event finish, like kick out, but it's fine. I still like the match a lot. I actually Jordan's offense here, I think he's like really fun. I'm with Oracle. We're very much, we pop for like structure and themes and ideas. But if they're going to do a main event moves match, at least the shit looks good, at least, right? Like some of Jordan's stuff looks really impressive. There's a sweet like pole driver counter that Mickie busts out. There's a lot to like here in terms of physically. It's not my favorite match by any means, but I will say this is like a genuinely like a pretty moving moment at the end. Like her family gets in the ring, Tara's in there, and it's like it sincerely feels like a celebration of her career. And watching this, in fear of getting dramatic here, folks, as I watched this match I'd never seen this is 7 months ago, and it affected me on an emotional level, and I was kind of like, this is touching. I appreciate this. It's a great reminder of get off your ass as a booker and a promoter and tell a fucking story. Build it and they will come. Impact has a lot of limitations. I'm not here to put them over as a model promotion. They're not one. But we hear so many excuses nowadays about why matches aren't over and why talent can't do this and can't do that. This is an example of they told a story, they hit every beat necessary, and by the end of it, they had built it, and guess what? The people that were there cared. And when Mickey's going for pins late, people are actually screaming and yelling at this moment because they told the story, It's like, this shouldn't be a novel concept, but fellas, I'm watching the women's divisions on both for the big two. I mean, I don't want to do the lame meme of like Impact's division's better, but seriously, like, do you guys get what I'm saying here? It's like,
but what? Like, hear me out. What if she got cheated out of the victory and she had to face struggle and setback, and then eventually she finished the story?
Honestly, at least that would suggest there was a story to begin with. I'm not seeing any of it right now on either promotion. And it's like I was watching this thinking, this is Mickie at like what 42, and Mickie can still go, so I don't mean that as a slight, but like, it's not like they're armed with like this all-star crew down there, but like they told a story with a compelling performer. People are like, it's not that hard, man.
It's not. Being a good pro wrestler is hard. That's what I was saying about being a Mickie James is hard. Being a booker, I'm sorry, it's not as hard as some of these fuckers make it out to be. There was, I guess at this point, infamously, exactly what you're talking about, Joe. A few years back, Nick Aldis defended the NWA title against a wrestler who carried an umbrella, and TJ Hawk wrote this review of it, and it was this match that like remember when they brought back the Crockett Cup, and I think the Briscoes won, or the Briscoes made it to the final. Yeah. Whatever the case, it was the main event, and they just presented it like it was this big fucking deal, and then they wrestle this really emotionally engaging match. Aldis gets like this fucking 5-alarm blade job, and by the end, the crowd's just like super into it, and it turned into this really good match. And like, I remember Hawk wrote this review about it. He's like, look, these are two incredibly limited performers, but they delivered like this really engaging match that the crowd got into. And it's like, I think the closing line of his review was like, attention wrestling bookers, the reason fans don't care about your wrestlers is because you don't. It's like, if you don't present like you don't care about it, then why the fuck is the crowd going to care about it? And that's, this here. It's like the fact that I didn't know that whole, and again, this is me completely background blind about TNA, but like, just the fact that it was billed as title versus career and was the main event immediately makes the crowd know that, oh, this means something. I didn't know the thing of like Mickie James had previously main evented that show. This is just me watching this completely like cold. I get it. And then it does feel like a big deal in the end. And it's just, and that whole, that's pretty universal WWE. I don't know if AEW does that, but that whole idea that like the good guy can't win when it's right to win, it's just so fucking weird, dude.
Yeah, I mean, even honestly, that's a great example. But
was bad about it. They got the worst.
Yeah, well, the best Aldis example is the Cody match.
Yeah,
no one gave a shit about the NWA title until Cody said, "I want to win it." And they had all these guys at ringside for the match, and DDP was there. Remember the entrance to that match? They both had their teams,
their fight camps. Yeah,
build it, and they will.
Greg Jackson.
Honestly, and again, we'll wrap up here on a positive note for Mickie James, because this isn't about her, but it's like, there's so many excuses now, and every talent, there's 10 reasons why they can't be pushed. You know, it's like, they're not a great promo, or they're not this. It's like, why don't you just do your part and actually try and fucking cover some of their weaknesses? You know, I've had enough of it.
The hardest part about booking, I would say, is that you have to. The one thing about booking is you can't do it for too long.
Yeah, everyone has a short cycle.
Everybody's got to take a break. Everybody's got to. You know.
That's why Roddy Piper and Shawn Michaels and guys like that had it figured out, dude. Just like, stick around, win, leave.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I got a good segue for you. So we'll finish here on another great example of that is the whole giving people a reason to care. Homicide was always kind of like, yeah, people liked Homicide, but then they made him the biggest babyface in the world with that push to the Ring of Honor title over the course of a year. But when he won, when he should have won, it was amazing, and everyone was so happy. And it's not as difficult as some people think it may be. You have to have the right talent to do it. Don't get me wrong. You can't just take John Q off the street. But that was Final Battle 2006. You go back 4 years earlier, a young Alexis Lurie wrestled at Final Battle 2002. We come to 2023, and what a road she's followed to get there.
Absolutely. A couple matches from this final act I'd like to shout. The Mia Yim one I'd forgotten. I think they had a pretty nice match. She had a good one, Mercedes Martinez, which is no surprise. And her and Masha Slamovich was pretty good, I think, too. I don't think it was, the best version of what that matchup could be, but she had a couple of good ones in Impact. So there's those. Alex, you had some quirky ones. What was some of those mixed tags you stumbled upon when we were?
Yeah, I've still got them dog-eared. They're in my YouTube. I'm gonna watch. One of them was Bob actually brought it up. It was Mickie James and Nick Aldis against Chelsea and Cardona from WrestleCon last year.
The Big Four.
And then that other one that I sent you, Joe, that I'm gonna have to watch. It was Serena Deeb and James Storm against Nick Aldis and Mickie James.
Incredible. My God. So I assume that's is that from the angle where James Storm murders her? Or is that a different time?
I think was that when Anthem was in charge? Because they were back to the 6-sided ring with the blue ropes. So I'm trying to remember. I guess it would have had to have been.
Yeah, I think it was 2015 when she was murdered by James Storms, and that fits with the GFW stuff.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, we'll leave that there.
Or maybe not. Maybe it was Anthony. I don't know.
I think it's a little bit before, because 2015 is when they're on Destination America. They go back to 6-side still under Dixie in 2014. Because remember they did the shows in New York where they put Dixie through the table
and popped a rating.
Factual. Anyway, all right. Let's just put a bow on Grin Grappler and Mickie James before we pick our next grappler, fellas. Final thoughts, the legacy of Mickie James. Bob, kick us off.
Yeah, kind of having only seen her WWE run, I'm glad we got into more of that TNA stuff. basically, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning of the show, just came out with more of an appreciation than I went in having, because I always thought she was good, but like this, and we pick kind of matches, we don't pick bad matches, which kind of helps with all this, but like she's so much better than I realized. And that's nice. I'm glad we got to do this. I'm glad we got to hopefully convince people to check these out. I believe they're all available. Most of them are on YouTube. The last one is on Daily Motion. I think the last two are on Daily Motion, or you can get Impact Plus or
That's
Peacock.
illegal.
Yeah. If you wanted to look, otherwise you get Impact Plus or Peacock.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob. What about outfit you were running here? Good Lord. Hearing this shit, Alex. What do you think? Legacy of Mickie James, mate. Go for it.
Yeah, man. This is, the first year of Grin Grappler. We got to get the heavy hitters out of the way. Got to get Brett in there. Got to get Terry Funk. Got to get, I don't know who else. Stan Hansen, So now we're kind of getting to a position where we can afford to do some more interesting selections like this. And I think it's been one of the more interesting ones we've done because, not going to say like my love of the game has been rejuvenated or whatnot, but it's like, God damn, man, Mickie James was a hell of a wrestler. Like that's kind of like a takeaway from this. And like, I vented a lot of my frustrations of things that could be learned from her. And if we don't have it already within the next 5 years, we're going to have those people on NXT. I watched Mickie James as a kid growing up, and it's like, good.
Bro,
I hope you did.
Alexa said it in a pre-match promo. For that
Oh,
match.
yeah, that's right. But good. She'd be a good one to study. Hell of a worker, hell of a hand, and like, kind of reiterated some of my thoughts originally of like, why doesn't Tony make a play for her? Why? Anyone would be lucky to have her there, if nothing else at this point, just kind of help their women's roster. And I mean, she's a good wrestler too. She could help anybody. But anyway, the Tara match was kind of the revelation of this. And again, that ain't Joe Necro or something, but that is a really fun little piece of business there. And so, like we said, seek it out on YouTube. And for me, and for like what I like in wrestling at this point in my life, that was fucking awesome. So, long live Mickie James. Also, all-time hottie. I was 19 when she showed up on the game, so I got to give her props for that. Oracle said he was 13, so he probably even has a stronger sentimental attachment to that aspect. But and obviously, by all accounts, is a good person, and also for the shit she's put up with from a booking perspective, seems to be someone who kind of lets it roll off her back. So she's not a fucking mark. So props to her in regards to that. Good episode, fun discussion, and kind of a learning process of just how good Mickie James is.
Absolutely. Oracle, final thoughts, mate. What do you reckon?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said at the start, I've always been a fan of hers, but I came away thinking that she was absolutely a very good wrestler. Still is. Spanning over 20 years, basically, which is really impressive for anybody. There's been lots of wrestlers, and there's probably only I don't even know how many wrestlers have been good for like consistently 20 years.
And good at like the same things too.
I mean, almost certainly less than 100, right? Like,
yeah.
That's. I mean, it's. I mean, she wouldn't be in my top 100, but my point is like
Shane McMahon.
Her consistency is staggering.
Consistency is very, very valuable stuff. I came away very pleased and even in a way surprised at how good she is. And I really like the points that Alex brought up about her just like having the natural sort of wrestler charisma, which I guess that's the only other word I can put it into, of just like the expressions, the way she moves in the ring, the way she carries herself, as a performer in the ring. She's just a really good, really, really good pro wrestler.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Overall,
I think she's a genuine wrestling legend, and I think she's too often forgotten when conversations come up about. Like, I honestly think she's one of the best like American women's wrestlers ever, and I think she's very often forgotten in that conversation. And I think she is forgotten for people who are not nearly as good as her. To be frank, we don't need to name names, but like,
right. Right. Once
because
again,
WWE,
how many people have been good for 20 years?
right, exactly, especially in women's wrestling.
Part of it.
It's like
Yeah.
she almost suffers from her longevity because she stuck around long enough to become a role player for WWE.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of people punish her for that in history because she didn't go out on top. And it's like she's a wrestler. That was her life, you know. But anyway, like genuine legend to me. I think it'd be fascinating to play her career out in different time. Like if she came in now, work she could do, I think is kind of staggering to think about. Even with some of the issues Alex brought up, like, and again, let me be clear: the divisions on both big two companies suck right now, but there is obviously more opportunity, right? Like, I think she'd blow people away if she just emerged today. Sincerely, I really do hope she doesn't fall through the cracks of history because some wrestlers just do. Not their fault. It's just they're not, promotions don't look at them that way. And I hope that doesn't happen because she's been terrific for a really long time. And if all else fails, at least she now has the legacy of being the wrestler who allowed for an Alexa Bliss match to make Grin Grappler. So that's a legacy worth leaving behind, Indeed. The handwork match for no handwork. So I'm really glad we did the second women's wrestler in the archives. And I think we all came away with a greater appreciation of Mickie James. So it was very, very worthwhile. We hope everyone watching home enjoyed it. Now, let's look ahead to September's Grin Grappler. Now, I've begun to kind of, like, it's because we do it differently and we don't have the people vote. I like to bring out everyone's favorite wrestler when it's their birthday, so I'll do this here for Alex. Now he's not going to win, folks, but it is Buddy Matthews' birthday month coming up. So some Blake and Murphy. I'm looking for Bob, the monster among men, Braun Strowman. I don't know what the X would be, but at third act, I don't know. I saw some stuff with that Gunther match, Okay, there are two interesting singles candidates, and there are two tag team deals. Singles, we have the recently relevant with the Dark Side of the Ring, Bam Bam Bigelow, which I think would be interesting.
Yes.
We have one who was almost locked into the hour episode last year before we did Asuka instead. The Enforcer, Arn Anderson, I think is in the favorite. He's in the lead here. But a couple tag team ones. Now, only half of the tag team, it's their birthday month. But obviously, to do tag team episodes, we're going to have to do that. There are only a handful of teams from which it will cross over. It is Animals. Not quite. It is Animals' birthday month next month. We could do the Road Warriors. It's also Ricky Morton's month, so we could do the Rock and Roll Express. So I think the real candidates are Bam Bam, Double A, Road Warriors, Rock and Roll Express. I think they're the real candidates. I personally would like to watch some Enforcer, but I'm open to discussion. As always, Bob, I always let you go first because you obviously lashed out. So go on, mate.
It's true. I would like to do Bam Bam. I think there's a handful of pretty good matches that would make it easy to decide the acts, as well as careers broken up nicely. But I've been watching through 1993 WCW. Arn Anderson's getting more action, enjoying him quite a bit. I've enjoyed the other stuff I've seen of him. Would like to do maybe a deeper dive there. So yeah, one of those two. And I know that doesn't narrow it down that much, since those are two of the four people you pitched. But that's where we're at.
That's fine. That works for me. Oracle, what do you reckon?
So Bam Bam has some really good highlight matches that I can think of off the top of my head with Lawler and Memphis. Steve, I think it's Dr. Death, or maybe it's Terry Gordy at the UWF show in the early 90s.
Taz.
Yeah, Taz match, but also the RVD match. The
one RVD wins the belt.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's got to be the third act, right?
And then there's the triple threat hardcore match at like Uncensored 99 or Spring Stampede 99 or whatever it was. That's really fucking. Or maybe is it just him and Sandman? That's
Hack. Sure.
Yeah.
Hack,
him and Hardcore Hack. Yeah, at Spring Stampede 99. That's awesome. So there's some good matches there. Of course, Double A. I'm never going to say no to Arn, like in terms of, but I'm gonna let those honestly would be my top two. Although the Rock and Rolls is honestly pretty compelling.
Yeah, it's interesting. Alex, where do you lean on this? I'm intrigued.
You super loaded it, man, dude. But like, Arn would be great. Man, Bam Bam though, like, we could do the first Survivor Series main event, so we start in like the peak of Hulkamania and then end up in fucking ECW. Like, there's, yeah, it'd be either him or Arn. What would be the axe for Arn?
I think the way we'd do it with Arn is we'd do like a singles and a tag for each era. So you'd probably do the original Horseman run, like Dangerous Alliance, that range of time, early 90s. And then I guess you'd do like the Nitro block. I don't know. I'd have to rethink about it.
Do the Fall Brawl match with Rick.
Yeah, that would have to be in there. I will say this. I'm much less aware of Bam Bam's catalog. So I think it could be more. I mean, we bring up on most episodes anyway. Maybe Bam Bam's more interesting,
Yeah, man. Like, to go from the throes of Hogan Andre and then end up in Buffalo getting hit in the face with a chair by Sabu. I mean, that's...
Yeah.
He's also interesting because he's like, I think objectively a guy who didn't reach his full potential by any means.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's one of those, and I mean this with love, but I don't think it's an episode where we would just show up and like, kind of wax poker. But like, I think there would be matches where we kind of go this, that, and we kind of pick things apart. Which
there's also some good Jersey Triad tags, but I'd rather do like that hack match if we did him.
Yeah,
Jersey Triad.
Only thing is, I don't know if we're gonna, because we do need to do the Survivor Series match. That's like his showing.
Yeah, that's
it
true.
Would probably be that.
That match, Lawler match is great, man.
We need the Lawler match. Act 1 would probably be Lawler in the Survivor Series, right?
Mm-hmm.
Act
2 would probably be one of the Brett matches.
Yep. Yeah. And what was the other one you just mentioned? The one you said from the other 90s?
It's either Williams or Gordy. And then we'd have to use an ECW match and then a WCW match. Well, we'll have to decide either the Taz match or the RVD match. The RVD match is not talked about enough, but obviously the Taz match is a classic. But
it's Taz, and that there's a lot there. And someone said Corbs wore Bam Bam tribute gear on NXT tonight.
I think that settles it. I think we're gonna do Bam Bam, fellas.
Bam Bam.
Put on watching at home. He's missed out again.
he's got the gun to the TV right
now. All right, there it is. Grin Grappler, Bam Bam Bigelow. That's what's ahead. Probably be like 5 weeks from now, but we'll do the tweet at some point of the date and the matches. So that's what's up next. Okay, plugs, promotions, final words. Bobby Two Shoes. Anything to put over before we get out of here?
Join us Thursday evening for the Late Night Grin number 90, 89, whatever number it is. Talk about 91. All In, the biggest wrestling event of all time, if you've not heard about it. We'll be breaking that down and, just having a good time. Just join us at this very channel.
Factual. Absolutely. The Oracle of Wrestling. Anything to plug?
I'm just trying to look for this Bam Bam UWF match and specifically which one it is. But other than that, no, I'll be joining everybody on Thursday night. Probably an hour or two late. As I always do. But I will be there to discuss the show. We talked about it a little bit before we were on the air, but these fellows are trying to kidnap me to go to Chicago. Unfortunately, I won't be able to. If I had the means or the will to travel that far, I honestly would enjoy it. But I'm a coward, and don't wish to do that.
We'll get a picture and tag you in
it. There you go. But other than that, no. Like I said, I'll be here. On Thursday night. I'll have to watch I have a couple of really busy weekends, so I'll have to watch all these 3 pay-per-views, two big AEW shows and the Payback Fed show, all after the fact. So
sometimes it's the best way, to be honest.
Yeah, it really honestly is.
You can unplug and just watch the show, it's
right. Yeah, it's not like impressive live, it's
just when you watch live, you're talking to everyone about this. You know what I'm saying? It can feel a little exhausting sometimes. Yeah. Every match, there's a play-by-play on social media if it's bad or good. It's fuck. It's not much fun to watch the match. Are we allowed to sell your 8x10s to Chicago Oracle, or is that not allowed?
Oh, sure, why not? You just
Okay,
got to give me the the benefits, the money.
Alex, what's what's
We'll
happening
see.
with what's the latest with the Contrarians, mate?
We just talked about Jaws: The Revenge not too long ago. The most recent episode is The Commitments. It's an Irish film from the early '90s, and then Paper Moon's coming up, and I forget what else. Our patron, like I said last time, I think we had just dropped our last part of our Lindsay Lohan miniseries, and we have to do a postscript and addendum onto it because one of the ongoing things throughout it was I could not track down her infamous interview with David Letterman from 2013, and then like the day we posted it, I finally came across it. So we're gonna do like an addendum and discussion of that. So, just more of the same we've come to expect. We are thecontrarians.com, at Contrarian Prime on Twitter, patreon.com/@ContrarianPrime. $1 gets you in, etc., etc. Thank you for letting me, as always, plug my wares on here.
All good, man. All good. I love to hear it, and that sounds like you went full laps fan with that Letterman interview. That's full,
Yeah.
And adding the extra too. It's impressive. I love to hear it.
Yeah, our usual episodes are very hour and a half, 2 hours, but like that Lohan thing, that was like a lapse treatment. I think we ended up getting like 12 or 15 hours total on that. So
God bless. Tremendous. Okay, folks. Bobby said it earlier, the Grin. Bobby and Oracle both said the Grin this Thursday. We'll preview All In, which I'll be attending, apparently. I'm in gorilla position for that one.
Oh, you're going to be in and out. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully I'll see one good show between them. All right. We'll see you then, folks. Keep grinning. All hail. Enjoy this outro.